I died playing Mount and Blade at 3 a.m. Cancer got me. Honestly, not the worst way to go. At least I was having fun. But then I woke up, which was weird because dead people don't usually do that. First thing I saw was a campfire. Second thing I saw was two guys with weapons looking absolutely terrified. Third thing I noticed, wolves. Lots of wolves. Outside, howling like they were auditioning for a horror movie soundtrack. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. So apparently I transmigrated into some medieval fantasy world, into the body of another guy also named Hugo. Lucky me, right? Wrong. This version of me is basically the most broke, starving, pathetic noble you can imagine. My family used to be one of the top 5 duke houses in the Svadner Empire. 300 years of slow decline later, Grandpa got himself killed fighting orcs. The Empire blamed us, dropped our title to the bottom-tier baron rank, and took all our land. Dad died a year ago trying to earn money as an adventurer. Now it's just me, a 14-year-old skeleton with a fancy last name and 10 copper coins to my name. Oh, and there's a deadline. If I don't get land within 1 year, I lose my noble status forever. Getting land requires either a lord gifting me territory, good joke, winning military glory, no wars happening, or paying 50 gold coins for a pioneer charter. 50 gold. I have 10 coppers. That's like having pocket lint and needing to buy a house. So original me sold the family's last crappy property, scraped together 5 gold, bought a sword, registered as an adventurer, and joined a quest to pick flowers in a wolf-infested forest. Flowers. In a wolf forest. During wolf breeding season. Guess how that went? One idiot stumbled into a wolf den. The wolves went absolutely berserk, and our party of 4 got chased into this cave. One guy already got eaten. Original me passed out from exhaustion and malnutrition, which is when I showed up. Now here's the fun part. The big guy by the fire, that's Mars, the quest leader. The skinny guy next to him is literally named Dung Fork, and I just heard Mars say, when the fire dies out, throw him outside. While the wolves eat him, we run for that big tree. Him. He means me. I'm the wolf bait. My body is so weak I couldn't fight a determined house cat, let alone 2 armed guys. This is the worst ice guy start in history. Then ding. Mount and Blade system downloading. My golden finger is here. System merging with reality. Error encountered. Please wait. Oh, come on. Not now. I'm about to become dog food. Wolf food. Whatever. 10 agonizing minutes later. Merge complete. Character bound to host. I pulled up my status screen. Commoner Huagu, level 1. Constitution 4, Intelligence 6. My weapon proficiencies were garbage across the board except, wait, Archery 91, and I had a longbow and arrows in my inventory, plus 5 gold coins. The system merged with reality, so things were different from the game. Fewer stats, no skill tree, but I got a 60-slot inventory that works like a pocket dimension. I tested it, summoned a gold coin into my palm, then poofed it back into the inventory. A magical invisible backpack. In a world where I'm about to be thrown to wolves, having a secret storage space and a bow I can pull out of thin air, that changes everything. Now I just need to not die in the next 30 minutes. Time to spend my stat points before I become Wolf Chow. 4 attribute points, all dumped straight into Constitution. No hesitation. I'm about to die. This is not the time for a balanced build. Big mistake doing it all at once though. The moment those points hit, my body felt like someone injected boiling water into every organ. My muscles were tearing and rebuilding, sweat poured off me like a waterfall, and my skin started oozing this black, stinking gunk. It was like the world's worst detox cleanse. I bit down on my tongue so hard I almost cut it off, trying not to scream. Luckily, the cave already smelled like animal poop, so Mars and Dung Fork didn't notice the extra stink coming from my direction. They were too busy watching the wolves anyway. When the pain finally stopped, I looked down at myself and almost laughed. My stick figure arms now had actual muscles. My loose clothes were suddenly tight. I'd grown taller. I went from malnourished orphan to guy who definitely lifts in about 2 minutes. Next, weapon points. I had 10 to spend, and my archery was already at 91. Easy choice, dump everything into bow skill. The second it crossed 100, something incredible happened. The words, bow technique, beginner, appeared on my panel, and my brain got flooded with 2 years' worth of archery training memories. Thousands of arrows, rain or shine, day after day. Except I got all that experience downloaded instantly like a movie montage. My arms got even longer. My back muscles thickened. My eyesight sharpened so much I could see individual wolf eyes glowing in the dark bushes outside. The system wasn't just giving me numbers. It was physically reshaping my body to match the skill. With bow technique at beginner level plus my new strength, I technically qualified as an apprentice knight now. That's the lowest professional rank in this world, but it's leagues above. Random adventurer picking flowers for pocket change, better quests, better pay, actual respect. But first, survival. Boss, the firewood's almost gone, Dung Fork said nervously. Throw him out to the wolves. We run while they eat him, Mars replied, eyes cold as ice. Dung Fork nodded and turned toward me. He thought I was still unconscious. He thought I was still the same starving weakling who'd passed out earlier. He was very, very wrong. The instant he reached for me, I grabbed my sword and slashed his throat open. One clean cut. He dropped like a sack of potatoes, blood spraying everywhere. Mars heard the scream and spun around. But the cave ceiling was too low for him to stand up straight. He couldn't swing his big axe properly. He stumbled backward, one foot landing right in the campfire. He screamed. I was already lunging at him, sword darting at his neck like a viper. Turns out, when you go from level 1 pathetic to level 1 actually dangerous in 5 minutes, people really aren't prepared for the plot twist. Missed. My first ever kill attempt, and I missed Mars's neck. The axe blocked it. My hands were shaking. Turns out, knowing you should kill someone and actually doing it are very different things. But Mars stumbled into the campfire, and I knew this was my only shot. I used the basic sword technique stored in this body's muscle memory, an upward slash from below, and opened his throat. Funny thing about being a noble, even a broke, starving one gets sword training from age 5. That childhood practice just saved my life. I pulled Mars out of the fire before his kicking legs scattered it completely. The wolves outside were already creeping closer. And oh, these wolves. Not the cute Discovery Channel kind. These things were the size of baby cows with fangs sticking out like tusks. Absolutely nightmare fuel. I looted the bodies fast. Wallets from both guys, into the inventory. Dung Fork's leather boots, my size, nice, mine now. Mars's leather armor, too big, but I wrapped it around myself and tied it tight. Then I threw Dung Fork's body out the cave entrance. A massive wolf grabbed his neck in one bite and dragged him into the bushes. The whole pack swarmed after the free meal. Now or never. I pulled my longbow and arrows out of thin air, crouched at the cave entrance, and started shooting. Arrow after arrow, smooth as breathing, draw, aim, release. 4 wolves dropped before the rest even realized what was happening. Then they scattered into the forest. I grabbed everything useful, Mars's axe, Dung Fork's sword, the supply bag, 3 wool blankets, and shoved it all into my inventory. The supply bag had the quest flowers, water, and food, including white bread and beef jerky that Mars had been hiding from us while feeding the rest of the party rock-hard black bread. What a jerk. Then I bolted for the big tree. I almost made it clean, but the alpha wolf was smart. It chased me down and swiped my back with its claws. The stolen leather armor saved my skin, literally, but got torn open. The force of the hit actually launched me forward, and I used that momentum to leap onto the tree and scramble up like a squirrel on caffeine. The wolf snapped at my feet, missed by an inch. Sitting up in the tree fork, catching my breath, I pulled out the bow again. The alpha was already running away, smart beast, but not smart enough. I held my breath, aimed, and put an arrow right through its neck. Down it went. After that, it was like shooting fish in a barrel. The remaining wolves kept coming back to eat the bodies, and I picked them off one by one from my tree. 12 wolves total. Lucky these were regular animals and not magical beasts. Magical beasts have actual intelligence. They would have hidden and waited me out. I'd be dead. By morning, the fog cleared and the wolves were gone. I was so hungry I could have eaten a horse raw. All that body transformation burned through whatever calories I had left. I demolished the white bread and beef jerky, drank half the water canteen, then climbed down. Here's the beautiful part. My inventory could store all 12 wolf carcasses in a single slot. The system just sorted them by type and stacked them together. Each wolf was worth 3 to 5 silver coins. That's nearly 60 silver total. I collected my arrows too. Only 3 broke. System quality arrows with iron tips and raptor feather fletching. Worth 10 coppers each at minimum. Having real strength makes money come fast. Yesterday, I was risking my life for 50 silver coins picking flowers. Today I made more than that by shooting wolves from a tree. I got out of Thorn Valley as fast as my new legs could carry me. I leveled up. Walking out of Thorn Valley, I checked my status and, boom, level 2. The experience bar was gone from the panel, probably another glitch from the system reality merge, but killing those wolves definitely counted. 1 attribute point and 10 weapon points as reward, same as the game. Dumped the attribute point straight into Constitution again. Felt that warm rush through my blood. Energy refilled like plugging in a dead phone. I saved the weapon points this time though. My archery went up 9 points just from actual combat, so I can grind proficiency naturally and bank the free points for emergencies. Made it out of the misty forest by early afternoon. Standing on a hilltop looking out over green plains with smoke rising from distant chimneys and a little stream bubbling out of the mountains. Honestly beautiful. First peaceful moment since I transmigrated. Cleaned the blood off myself in the stream. Then I had a problem. I couldn't just pull wolf carcasses out of thin air in front of people. So I chopped some trees with Mars's axe, built a little wooden sled, loaded 2 wolves onto it, strapped on my bow and sword, and dragged them toward the nearest village looking like a proper young hunter. The villagers at Siler Village stared at me like I was crazy. Not because of the wolves. They see adventurers all the time living next to the forest, but because I looked too young to be dragging in 2 giant wolves by myself. Old Bill's general store bought both wolves for 8 silver coins plus a pound of salt. I tried haggling for 9, but the old man gave me this whole sob story about taxes and barely scraping by. Both wolves had arrows through their eyes with perfect pelts, and he was definitely going to make a killing reselling the leather, but whatever. I didn't actually know the real market price anyway. I was just testing the waters. Oh, and I learned some important lore from the original Huiji's memories. This world's power system runs on bloodline inheritance. Knights awaken their bloodlines through special breathing techniques passed down through noble families. The Buffett family ruling Blackrock City has Wind Eagle blood. My family, the Kalinsa clan, has Wind Dragon blood, one of the most powerful bloodlines on the continent. The catch? Wind Dragon bloodline is so powerful that it's nearly impossible to awaken. That's partly why my family declined. Nobody could successfully cultivate it. The original Gu never trained in the Wind Dragon breathing technique because the family rule says you need to be at least an apprentice knight first, or it'll wreck your body. He buried the technique scroll somewhere in Black Rock City before leaving. Smart kid, walking around with a top-tier breathing technique is basically painting a target on your back. Well, guess who just qualified as an apprentice knight? After selling the wolves, I hit the village tavern, ordered a plate of beef, 2 white bread rolls, a vegetable dish, and 2 bowls of rice wine. 30 coppers. The original Huagu had been sleeping on streets and in the wilderness to save every penny. Not me. I have a cheat system now. Penny pinching days are over. Then, as I was heading to get a room, this woman appeared out of nowhere. Heavy makeup, waist like a barrel, reeking of cheap perfume so strong my eyes watered. She pressed herself against me and offered me an unforgettable night for 1 silver coin. Her perfume alone was unforgettable enough. Thanks. I turned down the unforgettable night offer. She kept pushing. You earned 8 silver today, just spare 1. So I put my hand on my sword hilt and gave her the coldest look a 14-year-old can manage. She left, pouting. The tavern owner watched her go and sighed. Wheat flour is the prettiest woman in our village, you know. Then he added that city nobles prefer thin waists, but out here they like them thick because thick means hard-working and good at making babies. I did not ask for this information. Paid 60 coppers for a private room. The bed was basically a wooden plank with straw on it, but after sleeping in wolf caves, it felt like a 5-star hotel. I barred the door, lay in the dark, and did some accounting. Mars's wallet, 1 gold, 12 silver. Dungfork's wallet, 10 silver. My inventory can only store gold coins directly, but I can keep silver inside a leather pouch and store the pouch. I rigged up a system. Empty pouch on my belt for show, real money hidden in the inventory. Reach into the fake pouch and secretly pull coins from the storage. Brilliant. Next morning, I hit the road at dawn with fresh white bread and leftovers. Along the way, I found a quiet forest clearing and practiced swordsmanship for 2 hours. Good news. I can grind weapon proficiency through training, not just combat. Better news. Practicing actual techniques gives more points than just swinging randomly, and special techniques give even more than basic ones. So I focused on Whirlwind Slash, a special sword technique the original Huaji's father taught him, but he never mastered. 2 days later, I reached Black Rock City. Massive black stone walls, ancient and intimidating. I felt like an ant standing at the gate. Sold the remaining wolf carcasses to villages along the way. Another 42 silver. Paid 20 coppers entry tax at the gate. The streets inside were. Glamorous is not the word. Sewage flowing openly, horse dung marinating in puddles, mud everywhere, and a smell that could knock out a horse. Most people wore straw sandals or went barefoot. My stolen leather boots made me practically high fashion. Found the Adventurers Guild and turned in the 100 black rooster flowers using Mars's ID tag. The clerk didn't even look up. Didn't ask why the name on the tag didn't match my face. Adventurers die every day here. Nobody cares who turns in whose quest. 2 gold coins, done. Total savings, 8 gold. Getting closer to that 50 gold pioneer charter, but still a long way off. Check the quest board. Garbage. Picking herbs, hauling cargo, chopping wood. All terrible pay for too much time. I'll wait for better listings. Some muscular guy with a greatsword stopped me on the way out. Where's Mars? I told him Mars died in Thorn Valley. He immediately switched to being my best friend. Lucky kid. Buy me some rum, and I'll hook you up with better jobs, right? And I'm sure those 2 gold coins in my pocket have nothing to do with his sudden friendliness. I walked right past him. Next stop, the Knights Guild. I wanted to register as an apprentice knight. Finally get a professional title, access better quests, earn real money. The registration fee? 10 gold coins. 10. I have 8. This world really doesn't want broke people to succeed, huh? And then, because my day wasn't going badly enough, 2 guys in black robes with white crow emblems on their sleeves cornered me in a dark alley at nightfall. Hand over those 2 gold coins, kid. They don't belong to you. The Crow Gang. Black Rock City's most notorious criminal organization. They're like actual crows, greedy scavengers who prey on the weak and pick clean anything that's already dead. They must have been watching when I turned in the quest. Saw a skinny 14-year-old in oversized leather armor collecting gold and thought, easy target. They were about to find out how wrong they were. Give us the gold or die in this gutter, kid. 2 Crow Gang thugs, one with a short axe, one with a sword, closing in from both sides. Classic mugging setup. I put on my best terrified orphan face. Please, big brothers. If I give you both coins, I'll starve. Can I keep just one? Please, have mercy. The axe guy smirked and stepped closer. He saw a scared little boy. He did not see the sword coming. 1 slash across his throat. Dead before his axe hit the ground. He never even processed that the scared kid had moved. The second guy turned and ran screaming, "Murder!" at the top of his lungs. Really showcasing that famous Crow Gang bravery there. I switched to my bow faster than you can blink. Sword into inventory, bow out, arrow knocked, fired. The arrow punched through his neck mid-sprint. Face planted into the mud. I looted both bodies in about 15 seconds. Weapons, money pouches, arrow recovered, and vanished into the dark streets like I was never there. The neighbors found 2 dead Crow Gang members. Nobody called the cops. Well, the Crow Gang collected their own bodies half an hour later, and the city guard showed up 30 minutes after that. By then there was nothing left to investigate. The guard captain shrugged and said, if the Crows want to handle their own trash, saves us the paperwork. The Crow Gang wallets? 30 coppers between both of them. 30. These guys risked their lives robbing people, and they were broker than me. Pathetic. But I knew trouble was coming. The gang has a lot of members, and I didn't exactly cover my tracks. Time to disappear. Quick shopping run first. 2 silver worth of white bread. 2 silver of beef jerky. My inventory keeps things fresh, so I was stocking up for a hideout period. Then I navigated through the slum alleys to an abandoned compound in the East District. The original Huigu used to climb over the wall here as a kid. This was the old headquarters of the Wild Wolf Mercenary Company. They went into the deep misty forest a year ago, and nobody came back. Place has been empty ever since. I dug up a wooden box the original Huigu had buried under a big tree before selling the family house. popped it into my inventory, and ducked into one of the old barracks rooms. Inside the box, two treasures. First, the Colensa family badge. Silver-blue metal with a wind dragon in the center, crossed with a knight's sword and lance. Colensa, engraved on the back. Made with mithril, so it's nearly indestructible and worth a fortune. More importantly, it's the only proof I'm the legitimate Colensa Baron heir. Second, the wind dragon breathing technique. My hands were actually shaking holding it. This is one of the top-tier breathing techniques on the entire continent. The Colensa family's ultimate inheritance. I spent all day studying the first layer. It's written on thick sheepskin with notes from generations of ancestors who successfully cultivated it. The core technique is actually not that hard to understand. You breathe in a special pattern to absorb magical energy from the environment, refine it into your blood, and gradually strengthen your body and life force. Eventually, you develop a life seed. And once that seed produces a strand of pure blood energy, congratulations, you're an official knight. That's the threshold of the supernatural. 3 layers total. Layer 1 for apprentice knights. Layer 2 for official knights after the life seed forms. Layer 3 for title knights after bloodline awakening transforms blood energy into battle aura. The catch? It's extremely resource hungry. Of course it is. Everything good in this world costs money I don't have. Still, I'm hiding in an abandoned mercenary base, eating bread in the dark, with a top-tier cultivation technique in my hands and a cheat system in my head. Things are looking up. Slowly. Very slowly. But up. Alright, time to break down how this breathing technique actually works. Imagine your blood is low-grade fuel. The breathing technique sucks in magical energy from the air and uses your blood to refine it, producing higher quality blood. It's basically a blood upgrade program. Do it long enough, your body transforms, you get stronger, and eventually you cross into the supernatural realm. The problem? This process burns through blood energy like crazy. Regular food can't keep up. You need magical potions, enchanted fruits, monster meat, expensive stuff. Without those resources, forcing the training actually damages your body's foundation. It's like running a sports car on cooking oil. Now here's why my family went broke. The wind dragon breathing technique is top tier, which means it's extremely efficient at converting magical energy, which means it eats through resources at an insane rate. A single bottle of basic life potion costs hundreds of gold per month. Original Hoji's dad understood this. That's why he never let his son touch the breathing technique. The kid would have gotten hooked, trained without resources, and wrecked his body, which is exactly what happened to the dad himself. He trained without enough resources, damaged his foundation, and his cultivation slowly dropped until he was barely apprentice knight level when he died. Tragic, but also instructive. Here's where my cheat system changes everything. Every time I level up and add constitution points, my blood energy replenishes and grows massively. So theoretically, I can fuel the breathing technique just by grinding levels. No expensive potions needed. If I ever do get rich enough for potions on top of that, rocket fuel plus a jet engine. I started training immediately. The technique requires 9 inhales and 1 exhale. 8 shallow breaths, 1 deep. Then exhale everything out like a waterfall. No hesitation, no blockage. Complete 1 full cycle or it doesn't count. I failed hundreds of times over 3 days. Hundreds. On the 4th morning, it clicked. Cold air flooded into my lungs and transformed into a scorching river flowing through my entire body. Suddenly, everything felt lighter, sharper, stronger. This was different from the system's stat boosts. This was a fundamental upgrade to my life force itself. No wonder nobody in my family could resist training this even without resources. This feeling is addictive. The family box also had 3 technique manuals: Whirlwind Slash, Special Sword Technique, Piercing Thrust, Special Spear Technique, and Blood Shadow Slash, a combat art that only official knights can use because it requires the life seed to power it. My family once had over 100 blood techniques. Now there's one single manual left from a founding duke's legacy. That stung. With my strength growing daily from the breathing technique, I threw myself into sword training. 10 straight days of grinding in this abandoned compound, dawn to dusk, swinging until my arms screamed. Then, sword technique, beginner. Single-handed weapon proficiency, hit 100, and my brain downloaded another year's worth of training memories. My sword speed doubled. My technique refined itself overnight. But Whirlwind Slash still hadn't unlocked. Needed more points. 2 more days of grinding. Proficiency hit 110, and boom, Whirlwind Slash, beginner. 3 years of intensive training memories crammed into my skull in an instant. This wasn't just an attack move. Whirlwind Slash included a spinning footwork technique and was basically an advanced evolution of basic swordsmanship. My physical abilities jumped again, all 5 senses sharpened dramatically. Not quite. Hear a pin drop in a thunderstorm, level, but close. I also tested something important. My proficiency only counts for swords specifically. Picking up an axe. Useless. My 110 points of skill just vanish. Different single-handed weapons need their own separate grind to 100 before they become viable. So the verdict is clear. Swords forever. Bow for range, sword for close combat. 2 beginner-level combat arts, a top-tier breathing technique, and a body that's getting stronger by the day. 2 weeks ago, I was wolf bait. Now I might actually survive this world. Having a cheat system is wonderful. The Kalinsa family's greatest genius, the literal founder, took half a year to master Whirlwind Slash. I did it in 12 days. Granted, the system told me my natural talent would have needed 3 years, so I'm actually below average. But who cares about talent when you have hacks? There's a catch though. Whirlwind Slash drains stamina like crazy. With my current constitution, I can only go full combat mode for about 30 minutes before collapsing. I also figured out something interesting about the system. My constitution still reads 9, but my actual strength has nearly doubled from the breathing technique and combat arts. The system stats are just a bonus layer on top, like a permanent buff sitting on top of my real cultivation. The two stack together, but measure separately. Then my food ran out. Breathing technique training burns calories like a furnace, so I snuck out at dusk to buy more bread and jerky. What I didn't know was the Crow gang had been searching for me for days. They'd torn apart the entire outer city. Some clever crow figured out to stake out food shops and threaten the owners into reporting suspicious buyers. The moment I showed up at the bakery, I was spotted. They traced my route back to the abandoned compound. Next morning, I'm washing my face at the well, and suddenly, crash. The gates burst open. "Ha! Found you, little rat." 20-something Crow gang members swarming in from every direction. The leader had a white crow emblem on his chest. That meant he was the East District Crow head, basically a mini-boss. I tried diplomacy first. Genuinely. "Look, I don't want trouble with your gang. Can we just call it even?" He laughed in my face. "Boys, don't kill him too fast. Skin him alive, okay?" Diplomacy failed. They rushed me. I activated Whirlwind Slash. It was not even close. My sword became a spinning blur of light, cutting through them like they were made of wet paper. Blood sprayed everywhere. Bodies dropped left and right. They had no combat arts, no training, no chance. "He has a combat technique," the crow head screamed. "Yeah, maybe you should have asked about that before sending your boys to skin me alive." Then my cheap sword snapped in half. 15 kills, and the garbage blade just shattered from the force of my own technique. His sword broke. "Rush him. Don't let him pick up another one." I tossed the broken handle away, and another sword materialized in my hand from the inventory. The crow head's jaw dropped. His enthusiasm died on the spot. He turned and ran. Classic crow behavior. I chased down the last stragglers with the sword, then switched to my bow and put an arrow through the fleeing crow head's neck at 50 paces. They all had to die. They'd seen me pull weapons out of thin air. Can't leave witnesses to that particular magic trick. Looting the bodies, I found the crow head's broadsword, actually decent quality. Thick blade with visible forge marks, at least 10-fold steel. Way better than my disposable junk swords. Standing in a courtyard full of 20 corpses, I had a moment. These guys had zero chance against me. A mere beginner-level apprentice knight. The power gap between ordinary people and even the lowest professional is terrifying. Of course, if they'd had archers, or if they'd all charged fearlessly at once, things could have gone differently. But gangs like the Crow gang survive by bullying the weak, not by being brave. I stripped off my blood-soaked armor, bought new clothes, and headed straight to the Adventurers Guild. Time to take a job and leave town before the gang's other districts figure out what happened. At the guild, I ran into that same greatsword guy from before, Fondero. This time, instead of trying to scam me, he actually had a real offer. Need a bowman. Rescue mission. A merchant's son got kidnapped. Handoff in 6 days at a place called Maple Valley. 50 gold reward split among 10 people. I run things fair. Bigger contribution, bigger share. 50 gold. Split 10 ways. That's at least 3 gold each. Probably more if I outperform. And I desperately need money for that pioneer charter. I'm in. Green Forest Hills, Bandit Central. In this world, when people can't survive as commoners or slaves, they become outlaws. Can't blame them honestly. The system is so brutal that runaway slaves literally have no option except banditry. They get branded with slave marks, and without a master, they can't even be regular homeless people. There are professional bounty hunters who catch bandits and sell them to slave traders. Legal and everything. This world is charming. At the guild, one of Fondero's guys, silver-haired archer, about 30, carrying a fancy composite bow, looked at me like I was carrying a toy. Boss, just because he's got a bow on his back doesn't make him a bowman. He actually needs to know how to shoot. Fair point. Annoying, but fair. Fondero took me to the training range behind the guild. 50 paces, 5 arrows. Hit the target 3 times to pass. I shot 5. Hit 4. Missed 1 on purpose. Obviously, I could have put all 5 dead center, but why advertise? In this world, showing too much strength just paints a bigger target on your back. Not bad. You've got real talent, kid. Maybe one day you'll develop archery combat arts, Fondero said, looking impressed. Yeah, one day. Already got them, buddy. But thanks for the encouragement. We registered the mission together. Rules were simple. Fondero's the team leader. Mission takes several days. Meet tomorrow morning at the south gate with a hired cart. Everybody prepare their own supplies. After I left, I didn't hear the conversation behind me, but if I had, I would have been less surprised later. That silver-haired archer asked Fondero why he recruited a broke kid with no money to squeeze. Fondero's answer? The little punk earned 2 free gold coins last time and wouldn't even buy me a rum. This time I'm collecting with interest. These guys aren't rescuers. They're scammers with swords. But that's a problem for future me. I bought 2 quivers of 60 iron arrows, 2 silver coins. Then found a quiet and called the Violet Tavern in the South District and got a room. Time to count my loot from the Crow Gang massacre. Emptied out all the pouches and 18 gold coins total. 65 silver. 98 copper. Killing gangsters pays way better than picking flowers. Morally questionable career advice, but mathematically sound. Celebrated with the most expensive meal I've had in this world. Roast goose, honey-glazed white bread, vegetables, steak, and mushroom soup. 3 silver coins. Worth every copper. My body was practically screaming for calories after all the fighting and breathing technique training. I feel like I haven't been truly full since I arrived in this world. Bad news. Killing 20-plus Crow Gang members wasn't enough to level up. The experience from human trash is apparently lower than from wolves. Makes sense in a depressing way. I did get 5 sword proficiency points from the fight, though. I spent the rest of the day in my tiny room practicing whirlwind slash with the Crowhead's broadsword. Great weapon, at least 20 gold coins worth, with proper forge marks and solid steel. My old junk swords literally broke mid-combat, so this is a massive upgrade. Problem is, once proficiency passes 100, basic practice barely moves the needle. Only using actual combat arts raises it meaningfully, and combat arts drain stamina, which means eating more food, which means spending more money. The grind never stops, and neither does the bill. I need a spear. Not because I suddenly fell in love with poking things, but because every weapon type I master gives me another physical boost when it hits the breakthrough threshold. More weapon skills equals more body upgrades. The system is basically rewarding me for being a weapon hoarder. Had dinner. Beef stew with potatoes, bread, and soup. Spent the whole meal mourning the fact that noodles don't exist in this world. First thing I'm doing when I get my own territory, invent noodles. Priorities. After dark, I put on my hooded cloak and stuffed 14 short axes and 10 swords into a cloth sack. All loot from the Crow Gang massacre. Time to visit the black market. The original Huagu came here once with his father. Every city has one of these underground bazaars, a place where adventurers sell stolen goods, no questions asked. Somebody powerful in the inner city is definitely backing this operation. Probably someone from the Wind Eagle family pretending they don't know about it. Found the entrance. A pair of red wooden doors at the end of a dead-end alley. 2 crimson lanterns hanging above. I knocked 6 times. 3 soft, 3 hard. A hooded face appeared through a slot in the door. Know the rules? Yep. 3 silver coins as entry fee. Inside was this narrow stone corridor lit by red lanterns. Walls towering 10 meters high. Incredibly claustrophobic. 2 turns later, it opened up into a bustling marketplace. Red lanterns everywhere, shops and stalls lining the streets, people flowing through in hoods and cloaks. It was like a criminal shopping mall. Found a weapons dealer immediately. Big guy sitting outside his shop next to racks of weapons. His eyes lit up when he saw me carrying a heavy sack. He could smell the business. "Give me a price," I said, dumping 24 weapons on his stone counter. 32 gold, 35, and throw in that iron spear. 34 and the spear. Deal. I knew I was getting ripped off. These weapons were worth 70 or 80 gold at retail. But black market takes a 50% cut. That's the price of anonymity. The spear was about 8 feet long, 15 pounds, good for infantry combat. Perfect for grinding my polearm proficiency. Here's the exciting part. 34 gold brought my total to 52 gold coins. The Pioneer Charter costs 50. I have enough. But, and this is a big but, having enough to buy the charter and having enough to actually survive as a frontier lord are 2 completely different things. From the original memories, I know that pioneering territories are in the lawless wilderness outside imperial protection. No patrols, no support, nothing. Just you versus monsters, orcs, goblins, and apparently undead. There are 3 frontier regions. Blood Plateau up north, constant orc raids. The eastern wastes beyond Blackrock City, monsters, orcs, ogres, trolls, goblins, maybe undead. And the Death Swamp down south. So dangerous no pioneer lord has survived 3 years there. Eastern wastes is the best option. Most success stories come from there. That's why the original Hoiji's father moved to Blackrock City, to eventually pioneer east. But even in the east, you need at minimum a real knight leading your forces, a 200-man guard force, and several thousand settlers. Most successful pioneers are noble second sons, with wealthy families bankrolling them. Meanwhile, I'm a broke orphan with a cheat system and 52 gold coins. Without my golden finger, the original Huagu had 0 chance. With it, maybe. Just maybe, after this rescue mission, I need to start recruiting followers and building a squad. My system says I can command 5 troops. Not exactly an army, but it's a start. How to increase that cap, whether troops can be upgraded like in the game, all unknowns. The system merged with reality in weird ways, so I'll have to figure things out as I go. Step 1, survive the kidnapping rescue. Step 2, get rich. Step 3, buy the charter. Step 4, don't die in the wilderness. Simple plan. Absolutely nothing could go wrong. Browsing the black market stalls, I spotted something unexpected. A guy selling combat technique manuals on a blanket like bootleg DVDs. He had 10 copies of the same shield technique called Spinning Guard, all hand-copied onto sheepskin. Asking price, 30 gold each. 30 gold. For a photocopy. Can I look first? He let me see page 2. The technique pairs a small arm shield with a one-handed weapon. Looked legit. 3 gold, I said. Impossible. This is a genuine knight's combat art. My family fell on hard times, otherwise I'd never sell. 30 gold, not a copper less. I stood up and walked away. Wait. Let's negotiate. 5 gold. Final offer. If it's fake, I'll eat the loss. Deal. 5 gold for a combat art that would normally take years to master through conventional training. For me, with the weapon proficiency panel, absolute steal. I also found an arm shield at another stall. Iron frame with leather covering, treated with tung oil and lacquer. 8 gold. No haggling. Expensive, but I needed it to practice the technique. Back in my room at the Violet Tavern, I opened the manual and started training. 2 hours later, it clicked. The proficiency panel absorbed everything. 1 year of shield training experience flooded into my brain. The arm shield became an extension of my body, spinning around me in a blur. My waist thinned out, my arms bulked up even more, my agility spiked. The system classified shield technique under single-handed weapons, and since my proficiency was already past 115, The accumulated experience just poured right into the new technique automatically. 2 hours. A combat art that should take a year minimum. I almost laughed out loud. My status now showed 3 beginner combat arts under single-handed weapons, sword technique, whirlwind slash, and spinning guard. The body upgrades were smaller this time. Apparently low-level techniques give diminishing returns as your constitution climbs, but still noticeable. There were other technique manuals for sale in the market. A two-handed skill called 1,000 Strikes caught my eye, 200 gold coins. My wallet cried, and we walked away. Someday. Next morning, I geared up for the rescue mission. No armor. Mars's leather chest plate was too big and still covered in blood. Just my black linen coat, longbow on my back, a sword at my hip, and a quiver of arrows. The iron spear, broadsword, arm shield, and 2 extra quivers all hidden in the inventory. My backpack was stuffed big and puffy with blankets and food, mostly for show, so I could secretly pull things from my inventory without anyone noticing. Met Fondero at the south gate. He had a cart pulled by 2 old nags with a canvas shade on top and wooden railings. Very luxurious. Very not luxurious. 6 guys already sitting in it, including Silver Hair, the judgmental archer. The 5 of them were swapping dirty jokes about which tavern had the prettiest bar girls. I climbed on, sat in the back corner with my pack, and kept my mouth shut. 3 more teammates to pick up. Then we roll out to rescue a kidnapped merchant's son from bandits. I'm sure this team of trustworthy professionals has absolutely no plans to screw me over. 3 more people showed up at the south gate. The leader was a big guy named Gerhard carrying a spiked mace. On his left, a young man about my age with a sword. On his right, a woman in a green cloak with a hood. Even with most of her face hidden, the 5 guys on the cart nearly swallowed their own tongues. You could hear their breathing change. Classy bunch. Turns out there was history here. Silver Hair, whose actual name is Gear, had apparently said something inappropriate about Gerhard's sister, the hooded woman, before. Fondero played peacemaker with a speech about how Gear didn't mean anything by it. He just admires beauty, right, Gear? Gear apologized very sincerely. Then when he thought nobody was looking, his eyes locked onto the woman's chest like a missile acquiring a target. He caught himself and looked away. Yeah, super reformed. I watched all this quietly and did the math. Fondero's group, 6 people who all know each other. Gerhard's group, 3 people who trust each other. Me, 1 person who trusts nobody. I'm the odd one out. Not great. Gerhard noticed the same thing. When his group climbed onto the cart, they sat next to me in the back, as far from Gear as possible. He deliberately positioned himself between his companions and the others. Smart man. That night we camped in the woods. Fondero roasted jerky and shared it around. I refused and ate my own food in the corner. Gerhard's trio did the same. Gerhard drifted over to me, casual-like. You ever worked with Fondero before? First time. Those 6 are tight. We should watch each other's backs. Agreed. Simple alliance, no handshake needed. In a group where you're outnumbered, the math is obvious. Next morning, we crossed into Green Forest County, bandit territory. The landscape shifted from plains to endless rolling hills covered in dense forest. The cart couldn't go further on the mountain trails, so the driver hid it in the woods, and we continued on foot. 2 guys in our group, Horseshoe and Straw Sandal, names that scream peasant origin, were former hunters from this area who knew the terrain. They led us through 10 miles of winding mountain paths until we reached a gourd-shaped valley with a stream running through it. Open ground with low bushes and rocks, easy to see everything. On the right hillside, a maple forest. Perfect sniper position. Fondero laid out the plan. Horseshoe and Straw Sandal guide the team. Fondero's group pretends to bring ransom money to the exchange point on the riverbank. 3 archers, me, a guy named Cole, and 1 called Mark, hide in the maple trees and provide covering fire from above. When the bandits show up, Fondero's group attacks while we shoot from the trees. Straightforward plan. Nothing wrong with it on paper. Except for one tiny detail. Cole positioned me on a tree with himself and Mark on trees behind me and to my sides. If they wanted to put arrows in my back, I'd be a sitting duck. I noticed. I said nothing. I climbed the tree, hung my pack and sword within reach, readied my bow, and waited. The valley floor was about 50 paces below my position. Good range. As the sun started setting, formassed figures walked into the valley leading a horse. On the horse's back, a body in a cloth sack. The kidnapped merchant's son. The four bandits carried a mix of weapons, swords, a long knife, a sickle sword, and a spear. Showtime. Called it. I absolutely called it. Fondero walked straight past the shooting zone toward the bandits. No hesitation, no caution. And the bandits? They didn't flinch. They just casually strolled up to him like old friends meeting for coffee. Because they were old friends. The bandits ripped off their masks, joined Fondero's group, and surrounded Gerhard's trio on the riverbank. The whole kidnapping rescue was a setup. There was no kidnapping. Fondero and these bandits were the same gang. One of Fondero's goons spelled it out. Gear wants your sister. Be grateful. Our boss will let you live if you hand her over. He'll even go first as a courtesy. Absolute scum. Every single one of them. Gerhard shouted at me too. Hugo? Are you with them? Fondero laughed. Don't bother looking at the trees. He's already a pincushion by now. About that. 2 arrows came screaming at me from behind. Left and right, perfectly timed. But I'd seen this coming the moment Fondero walked past the kill zone. I'd already strapped on my arm shield. The instant I heard the bowstrings, I spun 180 degrees around the tree trunk. Shield up, clang clang. Both arrows deflected. Then I raised my bow, drew, and put an arrow straight through Mark's forehead. He tumbled off his tree like a sack of rocks. Gear, silver hair himself, saw his partner die instantly and nearly lost his mind. Impossible. He scrambled behind his tree trunk and refused to come out. Bad move. Hiding behind a tree only works if your enemy stays put. I didn't stay put. I closed the distance fast. Gear panicked and fired 3 arrows at me. Missed all 3. I fired 1. Through the forehead. He fell off his tree. 2 for 2. Both dead before they hit the ground. I grabbed Gear's composite bow, much better than my old longbow. 50 extra paces of killing range. With my combat art-enhanced eyesight and breathing technique sharpening all 5 senses, I could now accurately shoot at 150 paces. Looted both bodies, naturally. Down in the valley, things were going badly for Gerhard. He'd charged Fondero with his mace like a berserker, but Fondero pulled out a greatsword and used an actual knight's combat art, heavy slash. 1 hit sent Gerhard flying. Blood sprang from his mouth. His mace cracked. Fondero was a professional. A real combat art user pretending to be a common adventurer. This wasn't some street thug. This was a predator disguised as a team leader. Gerhard got up and charged again anyway. Took another heavy slash. More blood, more cracks in his mace. The man was fighting a losing battle and he knew it. But he kept going so his sister and the young man could escape. The bandits surrounded the other 2 at the river's edge. Those 2 pulled their weapons, standing back to back, and then my arrow arrived. 1 bandit dropped. Arrow through the neck. Then another. And another. Every shot, clean kill, straight through the throat. They couldn't even see where the arrows were coming from. Take cover. Combat art archery, Fondero screamed, diving behind a boulder. Smart enough to recognize the threat level. Not smart enough to have avoided this situation entirely. By the time the shooting stopped, only Fondero and 2 bandits had made it behind cover. Everyone else was dead on the riverbank. I considered just slipping away. But no. Fondero had played the righteous leader, the fair captain. Behind that mask he was a slaver, a rapist, and a killer. If I let him live, he'd come after me. He knew my face, my name, my guild registration. This since today, Gerhard's companions managed to drag him into the maple forest, coughing blood. At least they were alive. For now. Well, good, buddy. Let me go, and the entire mission reward is yours. I'll even let you have the girl first. Fondero was hiding behind a boulder, bargaining like a used car salesman. Unbelievable. 5 minutes ago he was planning to enslave a woman, and now he's offering her as a tip. Real knight's honor there, pal. Meanwhile, in the maple forest, Gerhard was dying, coughing blood with chunks of organ in it. Fondero's heavy slash had shredded his insides. He grabbed my arm with trembling hands. Wagu, I'm done. Please, take care of my brother and sister. They haven't mastered any combat arts. They won't survive alone. He held out a leather pouch, his family's breathing technique, the Azure Falcon method, plus a night combat art called Heavy Strike. 3 gold coins with his sister. Everything his family had. I hesitated. We'd known each other for barely 2 days. A verbal alliance over campfire jerky isn't exactly a blood oath. But watching his siblings cry over him, watching this man literally hold his guts together just to find someone to protect his family. Fine. I, Hugo Kalinsa, give you my word. As long as they're willing to follow me, I'll protect them. His eyes went wide. You're the young master of the Kalinsa family? The Wind Dragon family. Pure joy flooded his dying face. He tried to say more, but choked on blood. He recognized me somehow. Questions for later. I took the pouch and turned toward the boulders. Sun was setting. If I didn't deal with Fondero now, he'd escape in the dark. I put down my bow and drew my broadsword. The woman, Elia, shouted after me. Young master, don't. Then the system chimed in my head. Camp follower Elia and Svadner recruit Eric, loyalty 80. Requesting to join your forces. Accept. Yes. Accepted. So that's how the troop system works. They need high enough loyalty and they have to volunteer. Good to know. Stay here. I'll handle this. Fondero saw me coming without my bow and practically danced out from behind his rock. You little brat. You dare fight me up close? I'll split you in half. He leaped into the air, heavy slash coming down like a guillotine. I spun sideways, caught the trailing edge on my arm shield with spinning guard. Still felt like getting hit by a truck. My whole body rattled, blood surged in my chest, left arm screaming. But spinning guard redirected most of the force. The shield held, just a scratch. A shield technique? Fondero's jaw dropped again. First archery combat arts, now shield techniques? On a 14-year-old? I pressed in close. He swung again. And again. Heavy slash after heavy slash. Each one a bone-shaking explosion. His greatsword was way longer than my broadsword. Couldn't clash blades, or mine would shatter. So I dodged, deflected, closed distance, forced him to keep swinging. Because here's the thing about heavy slash. It's devastating, but it's a gas guzzler. Without a high-tier breathing technique, his stamina was draining like a bathtub. 20 swings in, I was hurting badly. Blood at the corner of my mouth. Internal injuries from the shockwaves. This was how Gerhard died. Organs pulverized by repeated heavy slashes. But I had something Gerhard didn't. I dumped my new level-up attribute point straight into Constitution. Warm flood through my blood. Injuries healing in real time. Strength refilling like someone hit the reset button. 25 heavy slashes. Fondero was gasping. Arms shaking. Couldn't lift the greatsword for another swing. I spun past him in a blur, whirlwind slash, and his throat opened up like a zipper. He stared at me, eyes bulging. I could read his lips. You had. Another combat art. 3 techniques, actually. Thanks for not asking earlier. The 2 surviving bandits bolted. I caught them in 3 seconds. Where's your base? First one to talk lives. Eagle Beak Valley, one screamed. Eagle Beak Valley. 5 miles from here. I can guide you. The other added desperately. I looked at the second one. Sorry. You were too slow. Slash. Dead. The first one went pale as milk and collapsed, shaking. I called Eric and Elia over. Tie him up? Eric bound the bandit with belt straps from the dead bodies while the man whimpered on the ground, too terrified to resist. Eagle Beak Valley. 5 miles away. Fondero's entire operation, his real base. Time to pay it a visit. Young master, are you hurt? Elia rushed over when she saw blood on my mouth. Hold on, young master. Your brother seemed to know my family name, I said carefully. And then the whole story came out. Elia and Eric's grandfather was a guardian knight sworn to the Wind Dragon family, my family. He'd been a slave that the Kalinsa household raised and trained into a full knight. When Grandpa Kalinsa died on the Bloody Plateau, and our family got stripped of everything, their family lost their knight's fief too. But their grandfather made them swear the Barton family would always serve the Wind Dragon household. 3 generations later, both families are homeless, broke, and bleeding in a random valley, and these 2 are still honoring that oath. I won't lie, that hit me right in the chest. When I get my pioneer charter, I told them, the Wind Dragon family will rise again, and the Barton family will be noble once more. With my cheat system, that wasn't just a pep talk. I actually meant it. Both of them dropped to one knee. I, Elia Barton, swear to follow the young master. I, Eric Barton, swear to follow the young master. I drew my broadsword, tapped each of their shoulders. The formal oath of fealty in this world. I accept your loyalty. From now on, we fight together, full ceremony. Maximum drama. These medieval people live for this stuff. The system confirmed, 2 soldiers in my troop roster. Camp follower Elia and Svadiner recruit Eric. Not exactly an elite fighting force, but it's a start. I checked the horse the bandits brought in, just a draft horse, not a war horse. Still useful for hauling stuff. The kidnapped merchant's son was tied up in a sack on its back, half conscious and terrified. I untied him and told him we were adventurers hired by his father. He stammered a thank you while looking like he might faint. Eric and Aaliyah dug a grave in the maple forest and buried Gerhard wrapped in a wool blanket. They cried, but they held it together. Growing up watching your family crumble gives you thick skin, I guess. Same as me. I looted every bandit corpse on the riverbank. Wallets, weapons, everything. Didn't bother burying them. Wolves were already creeping in from the tree line, and the draft horse was nervously circling closer to us. Nature's cleanup crew would handle the rest by morning. We hiked back down the mountain in moonlight. Took twice as long as the way up. The cart driver had set up camp with a fire going. Where's Captain Fondero? Dead. Everyone except us. Bandits got them. He sighed and asked nothing more. Smart man. Aaliyah immediately started looking after me, soaking bread in hot water, salting the jerky, bringing me food. She was a little awkward about it, clearly not used to serving anyone. I didn't refuse. Having someone care about whether you've eaten is nice. I'd forgotten what that felt like. Eric took first watch. The rescued merchant's kid took second. I lay down under a wool blanket and pulled up my status. Level 3. Constitution 10, Intelligence 6. Single-handed weapons at 120, archery at 112. 20 banked weapon points. Troop roster, 2 out of 5. The troop limit didn't increase with the level up, so it must be tied to something else. Clicking on the troop panel only showed basic labels, camp follower Aaliyah, and Svadiner recruit Eric. No detailed stats like in the game, just names and titles. I woke at dawn feeling almost fully healed. That single constitution point I'd spent mid-fight did wonders, boosted blood energy, restored stamina, and even accelerated healing overnight. Mental note: always save some attribute points for emergencies. Using them as battlefield healing potions is incredibly broken. Untie the bandit, I told Eric. I'm taking him to their base. You two stay here and wait. Eagle Beak Valley. 5 miles away. Time to clean house. Aaliyah wanted Eric to come with me. Sweet thought, but no. Leaving her alone with a cart driver who looked suspiciously strong and a horse full of loot? Bad idea. Eric stays to guard. Fun fact, I'm the youngest person in this group. Eric's 15, Aaliyah's 16, I'm 14. But thanks to 3 levels of constitution boosts and combat art body upgrades, I'm nearly 6 feet tall now and don't look like a starving orphan anymore. Puberty via cheat system is wild. I marched the bandit, Florod, back into the mountains at Sword Point. 2 hours of climbing later, we reached Eagle Beak Valley. The entrance was a narrow canyon following a river, walls pressing in so tight overhead they formed a natural tunnel. Dark as a cave. This place is stupidly well hidden, I muttered. 100 paces in, I spotted a stone fortress wall blocking the tunnel. In pitch darkness. Only reason I saw it was my enhanced eyesight. Florod looked disappointed. He'd been counting on me missing it, so he could scream for help from the 2 archers stationed behind it. Go say hello, I told him, hiding in the shadows with my bow ready. The sentries recognized his voice and relaxed. Stood up to look over the wall. 2 arrows. 2 dead sentries. They never even shouted. I sprinted to the gate and pushed. Unlocked. These guys really didn't expect company. Deeper into the canyon. Another tunnel bend with another hidden archer perched on the cliff wall above. He saw Florod, started to wave hello, and caught my arrow in his neck mid-greeting. Then the tunnel opened up and I nearly dropped my bow. Behind this fortress canyon was a hidden valley, about 2 kilometers across, oval-shaped, with a waterfall cascading down the northern cliff. A river snaked through the bottom, feeding 100 acres of wheat fields. Stone houses dotted a small hill, topped by a 2-story stone building. Actual farmland, actual buildings, an actual settlement. And 20-something slaves in ragged clothes working the fields. This wasn't just a bandit hideout. It was a bandit kingdom. Florod saw his chance. Enemy attack. Third boss, save me. He bolted toward the stone tower at full speed. My arrow caught him in the back before he made it 30 paces. Should have run faster, Florod. Actually, no. Nobody outruns my arrows. The slaves scattered into the trees like frightened rabbits. The stone buildings went silent. 3 bandits left in there somewhere plus one, third boss, who was clearly more dangerous than the grunts. I strapped on my arm shield, drew my sword, and walked toward the tower. No cover on this open hillside. If they had bows, I was exposed. They had worse than bows. Whoosh! A javelin screamed out of the tower doorway straight at my face. The speed, the accuracy, this was a javelin combat art. The third boss was a real professional. I spun and deflected it with my shield. Then 3 more javelins, rapid fire, each one hitting like a battering ram. My spinning guard technique barely kept up. The impacts rang through my arm like church bells. I charged through the doorway. 2 bandits ambushed me from both sides. One got his throat opened by my sword. The other got his blade knocked away by my shield. Then another javelin, point blank at my neck. I twisted my body in what must have looked like an impossible contortion. The spear tip drew a thin line of blood across my throat. 1 inch to the left, and I'd be dead. I closed the distance before he could grab another javelin. The third boss was lethal at range, but useless up close. 1 whirlwind slash, and he was finished. The last bandit ran screaming down the hill. Bow out, arrow knocked, dead before he reached the bottom. I touched the blood on my neck. That was close. Closer than Fondero's heavy slash, closer than the wolves. This third boss nearly ended my story in Chapter 16. I stood on the hilltop and shouted at the trees. Get over here. 22 slaves crawled out and knelt on the path below me, trembling, not daring to breathe. The bandits are dead. You belong to me now, Cold? Yes, but that's how this world works. Slaves are property. Whoever holds them, owns them. And honestly, being owned by me is a massive upgrade from being owned by bandits. 22 workers, a hidden valley with farmland and buildings, and a fortified canyon entrance. I came here to clear a bandit nest. I think I just found my starter base. 22 people kneeling in front of me. 11 had the slave brand. The character 4, slave, tattooed deep into their neck flesh using magical plant-based ink, practically fused to the carotid artery. Try to remove it, and you bleed out. This world is thorough about its cruelty. I gave them all a choice. Follow me and I guarantee food, warm clothes, and basic combat training. Show potential, and I'll teach you actual night combat arts. Or leave with 3 days of food rations. No punishment either way. 1 slave's head shot up instantly. Sir, even slaves can learn night techniques. If you follow me and your body qualifies, absolutely. I'll follow you, Master. System ping. Svadiner recruit Aryan, loyalty 80. Requesting to join your forces. Accept. Then 2 more, rapid fire. Bandak from the Doro Empire, loyalty 78. Nick from the Dek Empire, loyalty 75. Foreigners who'd ended up as slaves far from home. Accepted all 3. And that maxed out my troop limit at 5 out of 5. Annoying. I couldn't even tell if others wanted to join because the system stopped asking once the slots filled. Need to figure out how to expand that cap. 8 people chose to leave. I gave them food and had Aryan escort them out of the valley. 5 women had been kept by the bandits. 2 as cooks, 3 as entertainment. 3 of those women wanted to leave. 2 had nowhere to go, families dead, home too far. They stayed. I searched the stone tower top to bottom. The basement had enough grain, wheat, rye, oats, plus salt, to feed everyone for 3 months. Weapon racks held 10 swords, 3 hunting bows, 2 spears, 12 quivers of arrows, and 6 javelins. Not bad for a starter armory. Best find was in a wooden chest upstairs, a copper scale half-body armor with cotton lining. Tried it on, fit perfectly. Massive upgrade from Mars's torn, blood-crusted leather. There was also a pouch with 30 gold coins. Total savings, 78 gold. From 10 copper coins 2 weeks ago to 78 gold. The grind is working. I put Aryan in charge. He knew basic spear technique. Bandak could teach archery, Nick could teach axe skills. I told them to distribute the weapons, manage the food supply, guard the fortress gate, dispose of the bodies, and start training everyone. When I told them they could manage their own food portions, several of them actually cried. The bandits had been feeding them 1 black bread loaf per day with thin soup and rationed salt. Harvest season they got a bonus bread. That was it. Headed back down the mountain. Aaliyah and Eric were waiting anxiously and practically glowed when they saw me alive. Smooth trip back to Black Rock City. Snotty, the rescued merchant's kid, finally relaxed once we passed through the gates. He'd figured out that I was the leader of our little group and gave me a proper bow of gratitude. I sent Aaliyah and Eric to sell the captured weapons at the blacksmith near the guild. They kept the best stuff for themselves. Aaliyah picked a sword and a bow. Eric swapped for a better sword and kept a bow. The rest sold for 38 gold. Paid the cart driver his 1 gold fee. Turned in the mission at the Adventurers Guild. Nobody asked about Fondero. Nobody cared. Old Hint, the leather shop owner, showed up, confirmed the rescued kid was his son, and the guild handed over 50 gold coins. Father and son cried together. Touching. Got 2 rooms at a quiet inn on a back street. 1 for me and Eric, 1 for Aaliyah. She handed over the weapon sale money, and I gave them 7 gold to buy proper clothes. Tomorrow, the Knights Guild for my professional certification. 10 gold coins to officially become an apprentice knight. Then we're leaving Black Rock City for Eagle Beak Valley. I've got a hidden fortress, 14 followers, 3 system troops, a breathing technique, 3 combat arts, and over 100 gold coins. Time to start building something real. I told Aaliyah and Eric about Eagle Beak Valley, the hidden fortress, the farmland, the slaves, everything. Their eyes went wide. Aaliyah immediately started planning supply purchases like she'd been a logistics officer in a past life. Grain, leather armor, essentials. The plan was simple. I get certified as an apprentice knight tomorrow, they buy supplies, and we leave Black Rock City fast. Then boots. Lots of boots. Coming our way. We'd barely stepped outside the inn when a full squad of city guards surrounded us, led by a knight on a war horse. And standing next to the knight, pointing directly at me, a Crow gang boss with the Crow emblem on his chest. South District Crow Head. The knight was Fitaru Kuba, South District Security Chief. An actual knight, not an apprentice, a real one with a life seed and blood energy. When he shouted, "Was it you?" his voice hit me like a physical force. He'd channeled blood energy into his vocal cords, turning a simple question into a sonic weapon. So this is what supernatural power feels like from the receiving end. Noted. Yes, I did it, I said calmly. But I'm not guilty. They attacked a noble first. Under imperial law, robbing nobility is a capital offense. The crowhead jumped in immediately. He's lying. He doesn't even own a house. Impersonating a noble is also a capital crime. Do you have proof of nobility? A family crest? Fitaru asked. I flipped my palm, and the Kalinsa Wind Dragon badge appeared. Silver blue mithril, Wind Dragon engraved, impossible to forge. The crowhead's face twitched. He recognized it was real. But he'd already bribed Fitaru with 50 gold plus annual tributes. He pressed harder. Even if he is Wind Dragon family, they've lost all their lands. He's noble in name only. 20 deaths is still a crime. Take him away, Fitaru barked. The guards grabbed me. I didn't resist. Fighting a real knight would be suicide, and I had a backup plan. My noble status should protect me legally. I just hadn't expected the security chief to be on the Crow Gang's payroll. Don't come out, I whispered to Aaliyah and Eric. I'll be fine. They took my broadsword and threw me in a dungeon. Dark, damp, guarded. The crowhead asked Fitaru to publicly hang me. Fitaru agreed, as long as the city lord's office approved. He's just a landless baron, he said confidently. They won't object. Sitting in that cell, I'll admit, I was worried. I'd miscalculated. The Wind Dragon name should have been enough. It wasn't. But I'd forgotten something important about politics in this world. Next morning, a fat, wheezing 60-year-old man arrived at the security office in a fancy carriage. Philippus Buffett, the city's chief administrator and the current family head's uncle. Is Huagu Kalensa still alive? You haven't harmed him, have you? He demanded, practically tripping over himself. Fitaru went pale. Of course not, sir. I'd never act without orders. Philippus sat him down and explained the situation in terms even a corrupt security chief could understand. Certain powerful people in the empire want the Wind Dragon family to die out. If the boy dies of disease, starvation, or in the wilderness, fine. But if he dies in our custody, in our city, at our hands, we'd be handing our enemies the perfect excuse to destroy the Wind Eagle family. They murdered the last heir of a founding duke house. That accusation alone could end us. Fitaru's confident smile evaporated like morning dew. Furthermore, Philippus continued, the Crow Gang dared to attack a noble. That's a direct violation of imperial law. I've already coordinated with the other 3 district chiefs. All 4 districts move simultaneously. Wipe the entire organization out. Regular members become slaves. Crow heads and the crow lord above them. Executed. Publicly. And, what go? Fitaru asked weakly. Tell him we imprisoned him deliberately as bait to lull the crow gang into a false sense of security so we could destroy them all at once. Give him 10 gold coins as a reward for his cooperation. Fitaru bowed, so deep his forehead nearly hit the floor. Inside, he was mourning his lost bribe income. But cross Philippus Buffett? Not even an option. So let me get this straight. I got arrested, spent a night in a dungeon, and somehow came out of it with 10 gold coins and the entire crow gang getting annihilated across all 4 city districts. Sometimes being a fallen noble is the best protection money can't buy. I walked out of the security office holding 10 gold coins that Fitaru had practically shoved into my hands while giving this passionate speech about justice and protecting nobles. The man who threw me in a dungeon 12 hours ago was now acting like my biggest fan. Politicians. Outside, the streets were pure chaos. Crow gang members, hundreds of them, getting dragged out of buildings, tied together in chains, and marched to the slave traders to get branded. The entire organization, all 4 districts, wiped out in a single morning. The irony was beautiful. Today was supposed to be MY public execution. The Crow gang had gathered most of their members in the South District for the big show. Instead, they delivered themselves gift wrap to the city guard. The organization that was about to reach its peak of power got annihilated because they picked a fight with the wrong broke teenager. Found Aaliyah and Eric waiting outside the old inn with a draft horse and our luggage. The innkeeper had kicked them out, too scared of guilt by association. They'd been camping at another inn while trying to figure out how to rescue me from prison. I'm fine. Plan hasn't changed, I told them. Buy supplies, get my knight certification, register as a mercenary, leave the city. I gave them 20 gold for equipment, leather armor for both of them, healing salve, provisions. My gold reserves hit 138 total after the night in jail, which is honestly hilarious. Got arrested, made money. But this whole incident left a bad taste. Fitaru definitely didn't release me voluntarily. Someone higher up intervened. Why? What game are they playing with the Wind Dragon family? Someone in the Empire wants us dead, but wants it to look natural. That's the kind of conspiracy that makes you sleep with one eye open. Need to build power. Fast. Headed to the Knights Guild near the inner city gate. Impressive place. Marble floors you could see your reflection in, walls carved with epic battle scenes, heavy mahogany counters. Paid 10 gold, filled out a form, went to the testing ground. Test 1. Lift a 200-pound stone block over your head. Did it like it was made of foam. Test 2. Demonstrate a combat art. I chose archery. No need to reveal my sword techniques to strangers. Passed easily. Waited an hour, then got summoned to a grand hall on the 2nd floor. A towering statue of Caesar Glenn, the legendary Sky Knight who united humanity against the Orc Empire centuries ago. Next to the statue, a white jade monument inscribed with 5 words. Loyalty, protection, honor, courage, responsibility. A knight in silver chainmail led me through the oath ceremony. Right fist over my heart, I recited, I pledge loyalty to my Lord and my faith, unto death. I hold honor above life itself. No matter what stands before me, even if it be hell itself, for justice and duty, I march forward. Heavy words. I actually meant most of them. Caesar Glenn deserved that respect. He was a commoner who became the most powerful knight in history and created the Knights Guild so that all humans, even slaves, could learn breathing techniques and combat arts. Noble idea. Too bad the current system buried it under layers of aristocratic gatekeeping. 1 hour later, I received my certification, a sheepskin document, and an iron badge engraved with a knight's sword, lance, and warhorse. On the back, Huagu Kalensa. Then the system chimed. I opened my status panel, and my heart nearly jumped out of my chest. Troop capacity, 5 out of 15. 15. It tripled. Becoming an official apprentice knight bumped my troop limit from 5 to 15. So it's tied to status and rank, not character level. That changes everything. Higher knight rank equals more troops. More troops equals more power. More power equals higher rank. It's a growth spiral. I've got 10 empty troop slots to fill now. Time to recruit. First thing I did was check what it takes to become a mid-level apprentice knight. 2 requirements. lift 600 pounds overhead, I'm close, and master a mounted polearm combat art, meaning I need to fight on horseback with a spear or lance. I have the piercing thrust technique manual, but my polearm proficiency is still at 10, and I don't even own a warhorse yet. From the original memories, Huaji's father used to describe the Wind Dragon family's heavy cavalry. Every rider was at least a high-level apprentice knight, wearing 100-pound plate armor on fully armored warhorses. 1,000 of them in formation. Absolute killing machines against the northern orcs. 1,000 elite heavy cavalry. And now the entire family is one 14-year-old kid with a cheat system and a draft horse. How does a family like that fall so hard? The more I think about it, the less it feels like bad luck and the more it smells like a conspiracy. Crossed the entire city to reach the Mercenary Guild in the North District. Night and day difference from the Adventurers Guild. The building was massive. The lobby had free rum. Actual rum, not cheap rice wine. Wooden tables separated by privacy screens. And the people inside radiated danger. These weren't flower-picking adventurers. Every single one of them moved like a predator. Even the receptionist was an upgrade. A blonde beauty with a professional smile. The Adventurers Guild clerk didn't even look up when I turned in quests. Here I got customer service. You're only 14? She stared at my certification, genuinely shocked. Yes, ma'am, an apprentice knight at 14. I think you might become a legendary mercenary someday. The whole continent will hear your name. Thanks, big sis. I'll do my best. I gave her my most innocent, excited kid expression. She registered me as an entry-level mercenary and handed over a copper ID tag plus a handbook. The tag works across all 3 empires, any city, any guild branch. Then I checked the mission board. My jaw nearly hit the floor. No herb picking, no cargo hauling. Every single mission was out in the wilderness beyond imperial borders. Barren Harlings, 500 miles east. Clear wolf packs from the misty forest edge. 50 gold just for showing up, bonus per kill. Maple Leaf territory, 600 miles east. Eliminate undead. 500 gold. Baron Filgerhorl. Hiring 100 mercenaries for 1 year of frontier pioneering for 100 miles east. 100 gold per person. The money was incredible. But the danger matched. 500 miles into the wasteland means you might never come back. Undead missions require blood energy to survive. Their death aura corrodes flesh on contact. Without a life seed, fighting undead is suicide. A burly mercenary at a nearby table offered to team up for the wolf hunting mission. I politely declined and left. No more random teams. After the Fondero experience, never again. From now on, I only deploy with MY people, my troops. Train them, level them up, build a real fighting force. Then we take missions together and the gold stays in the family. Got back to the inn after dark. Aaliyah and Arek had been busy. They bought everything on the list plus a second draft horse and a simple wooden cart. All 20+ gold coins spent. Leather armor for both of them. Healing salves, expensive, and bulk grain, cheap. Aaliyah looked pained about the spending. Before meeting me, their entire family fortune was 3 gold coins. Burning through 20 in one shopping trip physically hurt her. Every copper was worth it, I told her. Next morning at dawn, Arek drove the cart. Aaliyah and I rode on top of the supplies, and we rolled out of Black Rock City heading for Eagle Beak Valley. 2 draft horses, a cart full of supplies, 3 people, a brand new knight certification, a mercenary license, and a hidden fortress waiting for us in the mountains. The Wind Dragon family is officially back in business. Ding. I was packing up camp 20 miles from Eagle Beak Valley when the system notified me that Aryan and Bandak could be upgraded. Aryan to Svadaner Militia, Bandak to Doro Hunter. Cost 1 gold each. My stomach dropped. They can only upgrade if they earn experience. They earned experience by fighting. Fighting means the valley is under attack. I immediately knew what happened. Those people I released, some must have been captured by other bandits and talked. Led them straight to my hidden fortress. Should have been harder, I thought. But no, I don't regret it. I couldn't slaughter innocent people just for knowing my location. And winning Aryan and the others' genuine loyalty was worth the risk. But I couldn't lose that valley. It's my entire foundation. I spent 2 gold and upgraded both troops instantly. Then I turned to Aaliyah and Arek. Eagle Beak Valley is in danger. We move now. I pulled everything off the cart, all the grain, supplies, equipment, and swept it into my inventory right in front of them. A cartload of wheat and rye disappeared into thin air. Both of them stood there with their mouths hanging open. No time for secrecy anymore. Can you ride? Yes. Big Brother taught us. We unhitched the horses, abandoned the cart, and rode hard. Me on one horse, Aaliyah and Eric sharing the other. Draft horses aren't fast, but they're steady. What you just saw, the storage ability, you tell no one. Ever. Of course, young master. We'd never reveal your spatial magic equipment. Aaliyah nodded seriously. She thinks it's a wizard-made storage artifact. The legendary Wind Dragon family owning one would make sense to her. I didn't correct the misunderstanding. Let them think what they want. Meanwhile, at Eagle Beak Valley, things were going to hell. Bandits had attacked at dawn, a huge force swarming through the canyon tunnel toward the fortress gate. Arian caught them on his watch shift and sounded the alarm. He organized 14 people to defend, himself with 5 spearmen on the wall, Bandak with 2 archers shooting from above, Nick and the rest blocking the gate from being rammed open. But there were too many. The bandits had ladders, a battering ram, and endless bodies to throw at the wall. After killing 6 attackers each, Arian and Bandak were completely spent. Their arms were jelly. The slave volunteers had never seen real combat. They were shaking, cowering, 2 of them hit by arrows and screaming. Arian and Bandak locked eyes. It's over. Then, 2 gold coins well spent. The upgrade hit them both simultaneously. A surge of blood energy flooded their bodies straight from the system. Strength doubled. Stamina refilled to maximum. And something more, their basic combat training crystallized into real skill overnight. Arian's spear became a blur. Years of training experience downloaded into his muscles in a heartbeat. His thrusts went from clumsy to lethal, each one finding flesh, sending bandits tumbling off ladders trailing blood. Bandak dropped his spear, grabbed his hunting bow, and became a different person. His eyes sharpened. His reflexes went razor-sharp. At close range, he was landing every single shot. Neck, neck, neck. 1 arrow, 1 kill. Not quite combat art level, but close enough to terrify anyone climbing that wall. They can feel it came from me, I realized while riding. The system connected us. When I upgraded them, they felt the power flowing from their master. They probably think I'm some kind of god who can grant strength from miles away. I mean, I'm not going to correct that misunderstanding either. The bandits broke, left over a dozen corpses at the base of the wall, and retreated back down the tunnel. But they hadn't left. They were regrouping, and I was still 20 miles away on a draft horse that didn't understand the word, hurry. We made it just in time. 60 or 70 bandits were piling up firewood and dead leaves at the canyon tunnel entrance. Their plan was smart. The wind blew inward, so lighting a fire would fill the entire tunnel with smoke and force Arian's people to either choke to death or abandon the fortress gate. And their leader was no joke either, a one-eyed giant with a scar cutting across his face like someone had tried to split his head with a cleaver. He rode a black warhorse that stood over 6 feet at the shoulder, carried a knight's lance, and wore half-body leather armor. That warhorse, though, I wanted it immediately. Even as just a Svadiner-bred mount, it was an absolute beast. The legendary Doro Empire warhorses were supposedly even better. I couldn't imagine what those looked like. Oh, and fun discovery on the way here. I can store living horses in my inventory. Just touch the draft horse's back and poof, gone. 1 inventory slot. Aaliyah and Eric stared at me like I'd just performed a miracle. Even spatial magic artifacts in this world can't store living things. Their loyalty ticked up a few more points. I let them keep thinking it was a fancy wizard item. I scanned the terrain and found the perfect sniper position, a steep cliff face across the river with a jutting rock ledge, about 80 paces from the bandits. Nearly vertical slope, impossible for infantry to climb quickly, and that warhorse couldn't get up here if it tried. One problem, the one-eyed leader was tucked behind the inner curve of the mountain path. No angle on him from here. Fine, I'll kill everyone else first. I started shooting. 5 bandits dropped before they even figured out where the arrows were coming from. Enemy attack. Right slope. Everyone down. One Eye reacted fast. Veteran battlefield instincts. All the bandits hit the dirt. The firewood hauling stopped, and the smoke at the tunnel entrance quickly died out. Inside the tunnel, Arian had been holding the wall with wet cloth over his face, tears streaming, lungs burning. When the smoke cleared, he knew. The master is back. Morale in the fortress went from 0 to 100. One Eye dismounted and hid behind cover, then ordered his archers to suppress me while the infantry charged. 6 archers popped up and shot at my position. At 80 paces, 5 of them couldn't even reach me. One guy's arrow made it, and it flopped onto the rock in front of me like a dead fish. Basically delivered me free ammunition. I killed 4 of those archers in about 10 seconds. The other 2 buried their faces in the dirt and stayed there. Then came the real assault. Bandits with shields up front, spearmen behind, pressing up the slope toward my rock. I dropped 13 more before they got close, but the shield bearers were learning. They crouched low, advanced slowly, covered each other. Within 10 paces now, arrows couldn't find angles past the shields. "Young master, run. We'll hold them," Elia and Eric shouted. Ding. System notification. Perfect timing. Camp follower Elia can upgrade to Huntress. Cost: 1 gold. Svadiner recruit Eric can upgrade to Svadiner militia. Cost: 1 gold. Upgraded. Both of them. Instantly. Elia gasped as power flooded through her. Strength doubled, blood energy surging. Her brain downloaded months of archery and sword training. Everything she'd been struggling to grasp suddenly clicked into place, like puzzle pieces snapping together. Eric was the same. Spear and sword technique crystallized instantly. His grip tightened on the iron spear I pulled from inventory and tossed him. His specialty as Svadiner militia was infantry combat, perfect for holding this high ground with a long weapon. Elia's Huntress class specialized in archery, swordplay, and agility, more assassin than soldier. I gave her my old longbow since the composite bow was too strong for her to draw properly. Elia, fall back and shoot. Eric, hold the slope with me. Then I stowed my bow, pulled out my broadsword and arm shield, and launched myself off the rock straight into the climbing bandits like a hungry tiger diving into a chicken coop. I went full blender mode. Whirlwind slash and spinning guard working together, shield deflecting spears, swords, maces, sickles, and literal wooden sticks while my broadsword opened throats like I was cutting ribbon at a grand opening. 2 combat arts. I heard the one-eyed bandit chief scream from below. "Yeah, buddy. 2. And I've got a third one I haven't even shown yet." One Eye had his own trick, a mounted lance technique called spinning spear that used the horse's charge to punch through armor. On flat ground with his warhorse at full gallop, he'd probably skewer me like a kebab, but I was 30 feet up a cliff face. His horse couldn't climb. His one good I could only watch. I wasn't having an easy time, though. I'm still just an apprentice knight, not some invincible war god. Spears and swords kept finding gaps in my armor. The joints, the seams, my legs. Blood everywhere. Dozens of cuts. But my copper half-body armor absorbed the worst hits, and none of the wounds were fatal. 12 bandits dead at my feet. Eric was going absolutely berserk beside me with his iron spear, stabbing anyone who got close. Behind us, Elia had flattened herself against the slope like a sniper, calmly putting arrows into throats at 20 paces. 5 kills. Cool as ice. That Huntress upgrade turned her into a completely different person. Then, war cries erupted from inside the tunnel. Arian, Bandak, and Nick came charging out of the fortress gate with everyone behind them. Arian leading with his spear, Bandak scrambling up the opposite slope to find a shooting angle. Arrows and spears from both directions. "Surrender or die," I shouted. These bandits had been barely holding it together out of fear of their boss. With enemies now hitting them from front and above, they shattered. Weapons clattering to the ground. Men diving face first into the dirt. One Eye cursed and wheeled his warhorse around to flee. That horse was worth at least 20 gold. I was not letting it leave. I grabbed my composite bow and sprinted along the slope, tracking him. He was smart. Head low against the horse's neck, leather armor covering all his vitals. I put an arrow through his thigh. He screamed but stayed mounted. One chance left. I spotted a tiny gap where his back armor's lacing straps left an inch of exposed flesh. He was already 100 paces away, on a galloping horse, about to disappear into the forest. Everything went quiet in my head. One breath. One arrow. My system-grade 3-edged iron broadhead. It punched through the gap and buried itself in his spine. He screamed and crashed off the horse. "The master is mighty," Arian and the others cheered. System notification. Archery proficiency jumped to 132. That impossible shot gave a massive skill boost. Single-handed weapons hit 125 too from the close-quarters slaughter. Still didn't level up though, annoying. Nick could now upgrade to Deck Warrior, 1 gold coin. His body bulked up instantly, axe technique crystallizing in his brain. His specialty, raw infantry power with an axe. So now I had 5 upgraded troops, each on different evolution paths. Svadner Militia, Erek, Aryan, Infantry, Doral Hunter, Bandak, Range/Tracking, Huntress, Elia, Archery/Assassination, Deck Warrior, Nick, Heavy Melee. For different upgrade trees. Similar to the game, but not identical. One upgrade roughly doubled their combat power. Not quite Apprentice Knight level yet, but far beyond ordinary soldiers. Surrender or die. Nick started shouting at the fleeing stragglers. Everyone joined in. 32 bandits threw down their weapons. Elia dragged me back to the stone tower to treat my wounds. Hot water, cleaning, salve, bandages. She was fussing like a mother hen. Honestly didn't hate it. Erek brought back the warhorse. Beautiful animal. It had been circling its dead master's body, loyal to the end. Wasted on a bandit chief. Won't be wasted on me. The loot pile in front of the tower was mostly junk. Cheap swords, wooden shaft spears, leather-covered wooden shields, sickles, literal sticks. These bandits were desperate former peasants, not professional soldiers. What do we do with the prisoners? Aryan asked. They lost. They're our slaves now. Lock them up, starve them for 2 days, then put them to work in the fields with minimal rations. Cold? Maybe. But 32 extra farm workers just fell into my lap, and the wheat fields aren't going to tend themselves. The rooms they'd be locked in were the same rooms they'd used to imprison Aryan and the others. Poetic justice has a nice flavor. Time to play Lord. I gathered everyone in front of the stone tower, my 12 surviving fighters, plus Elia and Erek. Most had minor wounds from the battle. Ironically, I was the most injured person there. Leadership has its perks. From today, you may call me my lord, I announced. I am Hoi Gu Kalensa, direct heir of the Wind Dragon family of the Svadner Empire. Within a year, I will claim a pioneer charter and build a territory. Follow me faithfully, and someday you'll have your own land and noble titles. I've never managed anyone in either of my lives. But I watched enough movies and read enough management books to know one thing. People fight harder when they believe they're fighting for a future, not just survival. Every other lord in this world treats commoners and slaves like livestock. I'm offering a ladder. That's my competitive advantage. My lord, all 3, Aryan, Bandak, Nick, dropped to 1 knee. Loyalty jumped 10 points each. Motivation works, people. I set up the command structure. Elia became guard captain and steward, managing all supplies and resources. 2 squads forming up, an infantry squad under Aryan, with Nick and Erek as deputies, and an archer squad under Bandak. 3 months of basic combat training for everyone. Then the squad leaders pick their soldiers, subject to my approval. The 12 unranked fighters got the real carrot. Pass the combat evaluation in 3 months, and you graduate from slave to soldier. Soldiers eat full meals, get proper equipment, and train in advanced techniques. Prove yourself further, and you become a retainer with your own land. Their eyes lit up like I'd just told them they won the lottery. In this world, the jump from slave to soldier to landed retainer is like going from homeless to millionaire. Nobody offers that path. I just did. The 32 prisoners too, I told Aryan privately. Starve them for a couple days to break their spirit, then evaluate them. Anyone useful and loyal can eventually join. But loyalty first. I gave Nick a special assignment. Interrogate the prisoners and find out everything about their base camp. That kid is sharp, sneaky smart in a way that's perfect for intelligence work. Elia took charge of the armory like she was born for it. Every captured weapon cataloged on sheepskin paper with estimated values. She had the supplies I'd stored in my inventory moved to the basement warehouse. I told her not to ration food for training soldiers. Full bellies make better fighters. Erek got horse duty. He'd worked as a stable boy once and had already groomed the captured warhorse before I even asked. I told him to pick 2 slaves as apprentice grooms. I can do it myself, young master. No, Erek. Think bigger. Someday you'll command hundreds, maybe thousands. Learn to delegate. Train replacements. Your job is to become a warrior and a leader, not a stable hand. He went quiet for a moment, then straightened up. I think that was the first time anyone told him he was destined for more than just surviving. Dinner was the best meal we'd had in the valley. White bread, beef stew with potatoes, 2 vegetable dishes, mushroom soup. Aaliyah served, but refused to eat with me. Retainers don't dine with their lord. I tried insisting. She wouldn't budge. Some traditions are too deep to change, and honestly, I'm not sure I need to change this one. After dinner, Aaliyah heated a huge bucket of water and insisted on bathing me. I was embarrassed. She was blushing crimson, but I was covered in dried blood and grime, so I gave in. She was thorough, very thorough, did not skip a single inch. I'll just say I was very warm afterward. Moving on. The healing salve in this world is genuinely impressive. Black gooey stuff that smells terrible but works miracles. 2 days and my wounds had scabbed over. Ready to train again. Then Nick came running in after breakfast with his interrogation report. My lord, their gang had 98 people total. 85 attacked us. 14 stayed at their base camp under the second boss, who's a skilled archer. Their camp is 80 miles from here. He'd drawn a detailed terrain map. Smart kid. The reason they attacked us so desperately? They'd been raiding nearby villages, and the local lord of Tut territory had put a bounty on them. They were trying to relocate before mercenaries came hunting. When our released prisoners got recaptured and spilled information about Eagle Beak Valley, a hidden fortress with farmland and only 14 defenders, they saw their golden opportunity. Best part of the report, their base camp had 30 slaves, a small plot of farmland, and, most importantly, a working blacksmith forge. A blacksmith. I need weapons and armor for a growing army, and there's a ready-made smithy 80 miles away waiting to be seized. I smell a field trip coming. They have a blacksmith? That one word changed everything. A forge means weapons and armor production. That's not just a bandit camp. That's a strategic asset. I assembled my command team immediately. The plan: take that mountain base before they realize their attack force is never coming home. Problem was, 2 days had already passed. Surprise was gone. We'd have to get creative. Nick, go talk to the prisoners. Anyone willing to switch sides, lead us to the base, and fight. They eat today and lose the slave label. Arian, leave 9 people to guard the valley. We move in 1 hour. Those prisoners hadn't eaten in 2 days. The offer of a full meal was more persuasive than any speech about loyalty. 10 of them volunteered immediately. Aaliyah had the cooks set out bread soup and white bread. Those 10 hit the food like starving wolves, which they basically were. We armed them with spare swords and spears from the basement. Then my core team geared up. Me and my copper half-armor with composite bow and broadsword. Arian with shield, spear, and sword. Bandak with longbow and dagger. Eric matching Arian's loadout. Nick with his axe and shield. Aaliyah with the longbow I gave her and a sword. The chainmail from the dead one-eyed chief went to Arian. Same build, but he left it behind. 50 pounds of iron in mountain terrain would slow him down more than it'd protect him. Smart choice. We marched for a day and a half through green forest hills. Now I understood why bandits thrive here. The terrain was absolute garbage. Rocky, barren hills covered in worthless scrub forest, no farmable soil, winding paths through endless ridgelines. No lord would waste money governing this wasteland. It sits right on the border between 2 provinces, stretching northeast until it meets the misty forest. A perfect no-man's land for outlaws. The bandit base was on Mount Calculo, the most fortified natural position for 100 miles. 1 narrow path to the summit, cliffs on every side, 5 checkpoint gates built along the climbing road. The summit had a walled compound, practically impregnable, but it had fatal weaknesses. Barely any farmland, water only from collected rain, and 1 exit that could be blocked. That's why they wanted Eagle Beak Valley. My valley has hundreds of acres of wheat fields and a river. Theirs has rocks and desperation. We arrived at noon the next day, but waited until dusk. I needed the fading light and long shadows for what came next. Listen up, I told the 10 volunteers. You walk up that mountain looking like you just escaped a disaster. Because you did. You get the gates open. Anyone tries anything clever, they die first. Their leader, a guy named Benakuk, nodded sharply. I sweetened the deal. Open that gate for me and you become my retainer. Fight for me and I teach you combat arts. Benakuk understood the math. Trying to storm this mountain was suicide. Tricking our way in was the only option, and he was the key. First gate. 2 guards on the wall, one with a signal arrow, a bamboo whistle tip that would shriek an alarm across the entire mountain if fired. Who goes there? Benekuk burst into tears. Actual tears. Brother Sickle. It's me, Benekuk. We made it back. We barely survived. The other 9 started wailing and shouting over each other. Total chaos. Beautiful performance. The guard, Sickle, squinted down, recognized Benekuk and a few others. My 6-person team was hiding in the shadows of the curved path behind them. He couldn't see us. Open the gate. The signal arrow went down. The bolt slid open. They poured through. The moment we were inside, I blurred past everyone and knocked both guards unconscious before they could blink. Arian's team tied and gagged them in seconds. 1 gate down. For to go? Each subsequent checkpoint fell the same way. Benekuk's acting got better with practice. Same script. Crying survivors. Desperate stories about a lordly army attacking Eagle Beak Valley. Nobody questioned it. By the time we reached the summit, we'd passed all 5 gates without a single alarm. The final fortress gate loomed above us at the top of a 60-degree slope, 300 paces of steep climb. Walls built on cliff edges, 20 to 30 meters high. Every other approach was sheer cliff face. If Benekuk couldn't talk us through this last door, we were dead. No plan B. No climbing around. Just 1 gate between me and a blacksmith forge. Benekuk deserves an Oscar. The man stood at the bottom of a 60-degree slope in pitch darkness, screaming up at the fortress gate with tears streaming down his face. Brothers, it's me. We made it back. Open up. The second boss appeared behind the battlements, silver-haired, half his face hidden behind a thick leather wind hood, only his eyes visible. Smart. My arrows can't punch through layered animal hide at that angle. And he was holding a bow behind the wall where I couldn't see it. This guy was cautious. 1 at a time, 10 paces apart. I verify each face before anyone enters. Annoying, but workable. They filed up the slope 1 by 1 under torchlight. The second boss checked each face, recognized them, waved them through. 8 verified. He was starting to relax. My turn was next. I didn't give him the chance to squint at my face. The instant I stepped into range, 40 paces, uphill, torchlight illuminating his eyes above the wall, I drew and fired. The arrow went straight through his eye socket. How can anyone shoot this accurately? Were probably his last thoughts. Fair question. The answer is cheat system plus combat art archery plus enhanced senses from wind dragon breathing technique. But he was already dead, so I kept that to myself. The 4 remaining bandits on the walls panicked. But the gate stayed shut. Scaling 30-meter walls on a steep slope without siege ladders wasn't happening. Benekuk, tell them their options. Open the gate and live, or stay locked in and starve. Their bosses are all dead. It's over. That man talked for a solid hour. Cajoling, pleading, reasoning, threatening, promising. An hour of nonstop persuasion delivered with the passion of a man whose life literally depended on his sales pitch. The gate creaked open. We poured in. Arian first, then everyone else. No resistance. The remaining bandits and 30 slaves were just kneeling on the ground with their hands on their heads. Benekuk, your loyalty has earned my trust. You can join my forces as a retainer, or walk away a free man. Your choice. He dropped to 1 knee. My lord, I choose to follow you. I tapped his shoulder with my sword. System chimed. Svadiner recruit Benekuk, loyalty 75. Requesting to join forces. Accept. Accepted. Good man, good loyalty score. The other 9 volunteers all knelt too. We pledge ourselves to our lord. System check. Only 3 qualified. Loyalty scores of 68, 65, and 60. The rest were below 60, the minimum threshold for troop enrollment. I performed the shoulder tap ceremony for all of them anyway to keep morale up, but mentally filed away the discovery. 60 loyalty is the hard floor. I didn't actually enroll those 3 either. With limited troop slots, I'm saving spaces for the best candidates after 3 months of training. Benekuk was worth an immediate slot. The rest can prove themselves first. Sent teams to secure the mountain. Arian and Benekuk to round up the checkpoint guards. Nick and Erek and Bandak to lock down the compound. The summit was bigger than expected, about 1 kilometer across, but mostly jagged rock with a few scraped-out farm plots. Stone houses scattered randomly along the ridges. 2 stone towers on a flat central platform, the command center. The slaves here were the same as everywhere. Ragged, broken, kneeling with their heads down, not even curious about who their new owner was. In this world, slaves see themselves as furniture. Changes hands, same function. But I've already proven that can change. Arian, Bandak, Nick, all former slaves. Now they're squad leaders fighting with purpose. Give people dignity and a future, and loyalty follows. It's not complicated. The other nobles just can't be bothered. Then I found what I came for. The blacksmith shop, tucked near the central platform. 3 hammers, large, medium, small. Forge, bellows, full set of specialized tongs. Weapon racks with freshly made swords. Everything a working smithy needs. Kneeling at the entrance was a muscular young man in his 20s. Name, Webart, sir. How does a blacksmith end up as a bandit slave? His story was depressingly common. Grandfather was a slave blacksmith. Father was a slave blacksmith. Webart was born a slave blacksmith. Worked for Lord German his whole life until 6 months ago, when the Lord sold him to the Violet Trading Company. The merchant caravan got raided on the road. Bandits dragged him here and put him to work. He'd set up this entire forge himself using tools he carried with him. He told this story with zero emotion, like describing the weather. 3 generations of bondage will do that to a person. Webart, would you join my forces? Keep smithing, but for me, yes. No hesitation. No questions. No negotiation. System, apprentice blacksmith Webart, loyalty 60. Requesting to join forces. Minimum loyalty, but a blacksmith. Accepted without a second thought. I now own a hidden valley fortress with farmland, a mountain stronghold, a working forge, a blacksmith, a warhorse, 6 upgraded troops, and roughly 60 workers between both locations. For weeks ago, I was dying of cancer in front of a computer screen. This world isn't so bad after all. Apprentice blacksmith, a completely new troop type with its own upgrade tree. Even at the bare minimum loyalty of 60, Webart was the most valuable recruit I'd made so far. An upgradable blacksmith in a world where weapons and armor are life and death. Priceless. Aaliyah, make sure Webart eats well and stays comfortable. He's a priority. Benekuk led me to the main stone tower, the one-eyed chief's personal quarters. First floor, meeting hall. Second floor, bedroom and storeroom. And I have to say, one eye had taste. Velvet carpet on the floor. Cotton bedding, genuinely rare in this world where most people sleep on straw. The man robbed people for a living but decorated like minor nobility. Benekuk broke the storeroom lock. Inside, not much. Some grain, mostly cheap rye, barely any wheat. A few bags of jerky and salted fish. According to Benekuk, only the 2 bosses ate wheat bread and meat. Everyone else survived on 1 black bread loaf per day, sometimes less. No wonder they attacked my valley so desperately. Wheat harvest was still 2 months away. The local lord had cut off their raiding routes, and they were heading straight for famine. Eagle Beak Valley, with its hundreds of acres of ripening wheat, was their only salvation. Too bad for them. It's mine now. There were also some iron ingots in the storeroom, raw material for the forge. Everything went straight into my inventory. Benekuk watched me make an entire room full of supplies vanish into thin air. His loyalty ticked up 2 points. The spatial wizard equipment, Mystique, was working overtime. Then Benekuk showed me something special. He moved a wooden shelf away from the wall, pulled out a specific stone. It came free, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, a small wooden box. The chief kept all his gold and combat techniques here. I saw him open it once when I was serving him. This guy notices things. I like that. Inside the box, a layer of gold coins at the bottom and a sheepskin manual on top. Spinning spear, the same mounted lance technique One Eye had been using. The combat art that made him so dangerous on horseback. And now it was mine. I needed a mounted polearm technique for my mid-level apprentice knight certification. The universe just handed me one. Gold count went up to 144. Only 30 coins from the whole bandit operation, though. One Eye ran a gang of almost 100 people and had 30 gold to show for it. Banditry really doesn't pay. That night, every slave in the compound got fed until they were full. Black bread plus a whole pot of meat soup. Some of them were crying. They'd never eaten a full meal since being captured. In this world, a slave's highest dream is a full stomach, and I just made it come true for 30 people. My team ate even better: white bread, meat, fish, mushroom soup. Upgraded troops burned through calories like furnaces. Next morning, same speech as before. Follow me or leave with 3 days of food. 25 chose to stay. Every branded slave stayed. They had nowhere else to go. A few unbranded civilians left. No hard feelings. We packed everything worth taking. Grain, iron ingots, the velvet carpet, the cotton bedding. Anything I could discreetly absorb into my inventory went in. Webart bundled up every tool from his forge. Then we marched back toward Eagle Beak Valley. On the trail, Bandak came sprinting back from his forward scout position. My lord, ambush ahead. I crept forward with him. 120 paces out, a dozen figures hidden in the hillside brush. Without Bandak's Doro hunter tracking instincts, we'd have walked right into them. I unslung my composite bow and put an arrow 1 inch from the closest man's neck. It buried itself into a tree trunk beside him, sinking an inch deep into solid wood. I can see you. Come out. Next one goes through your throat. 12 people stood up slowly, hands visible. Easy, friend. I'm Barutko, captain of the Wild Bull Mercenary Squad. We took a contract to kill the one-eyed bandit chief. You on the same job? The man was tall, heavily built, wearing a rusty but solid half-body chainmail with an iron helmet. Great axe on his back. His squad was well-equipped too. Worst-dressed guy still wore layered hide armor. I almost laughed. If I hadn't shot first, these mercenaries would have mistaken my ragged column of slaves and ex-bandits for an outlaw gang and attacked us for the bounty. My warning shot made them reconsider that plan real fast. Sometimes the best diplomacy is a well-placed arrow. I didn't take any bounty contract. They offended me, so I wiped them out. Simple as that. Barutko, the mercenary captain, looked at my ragged column of ex-slaves, then at my composite bow, then at the 5 upgraded soldiers who'd silently fanned into combat. Formation around me. Aryan and Arek flanking front. Nick on guard. Bandak vanishing into the trees for a sniper angle. Aaliyah ghosting to the opposite tree line with her bow. The 10 armed volunteers gripped their weapons behind me. Whatever ambush plans Barutko had been cooking up died right there. No hostility here, friend. Just a business proposition, he said smoothly. How about we split credit for the bounty? You did the work, we filed the paperwork. I knew exactly what he was doing. I'd read the mercenary handbook cover to cover during my recovery. The bounty system works on trust. Any registered mercenary can claim a completed kill. Barutko wanted to piggyback on my work, collect the reward from the local lord, and split it. If I refused and reported them, the mercenary guild would blacklist their team. So he needed my cooperation. How much is the bounty? I asked, already knowing. 200 gold. 50-50? I lost 6 men attacking that fortress, I said with a perfectly straight face. Funeral costs, compensation to their families, that's not cheap. And you contributed exactly 0 effort. I hadn't lost a single person. But he didn't know that. His buddy blurted out, you're getting 100 gold for free and you're complaining. 120 gold. That's my price. Otherwise I'll contact the lord directly, and I guarantee he'll happily pay me 120 to close the bounty himself. Barutko thought for exactly 2 seconds. Deal. I like you, friend. Then he eyed my column of slaves. I know buyers who pay 20% above market. Want me to sell those for you? I only take 5% commission. They're not for sale. My family needs workers. His demeanor shifted instantly. Family, plus, workers, plus, noble bearing, equaled, aristocrat, in his mental math. In this world, even rough mercenaries tread carefully around nobility. Where should I deliver your share? He asked respectfully. Kimmerl Town Tavern. 3 days from now, noon. He checked my mercenary badge, nodded, and left with his squad. 120 gold coins. For work I'd already done. For a bounty I didn't even know existed when I attacked that mountain. I love this world sometimes. We made it back to Eagle Beak Valley without incident. Standing at the fortress gate, looking at the wheat fields and stone houses and the river running through it all, this actually felt like coming home. My home. My base. My people. 2 days later, I called my command team to the Stone Tower meeting hall. Time to get serious about building an army. I'd spent those 2 days writing a training manual, the military training protocol. Everything I remembered from military documentaries and management theory from my past life, adapted for medieval fantasy conditions. 3 components. First, formation drill. Standing at attention, marching in formation, responding instantly to commands. It sounds basic, but in this world, armies are basically armed mobs. Disciplined movement, and instant obedience to orders is a massive tactical advantage. Second, weapons training. Basic sword, spear, axe, and archery. For tracks, for instructors, Aryan teaches spear, Bandak teaches archery, Nick teaches axe, Eric teaches sword. Every trainee gets evaluated, and the best get promoted to soldier status. Third, tactical coordination. Flag signals, hand signals, battle formations. This world's command systems are primitive, just shouting orders over the noise. My signal system allows silent coordination of advances, retreats, and flanking maneuvers. Even with a tiny force, proper tactical communication multiplies effectiveness dramatically. Can everyone here read? I asked. Aliyah, Eric, Bandak, and Benekuk could. Aryan and Nick looked at the floor, embarrassed. Aliyah, add literacy lessons to their schedule. A commander who can't read orders is a liability. I selected 60 trainees from the combined population of both camps. Most were young. The old and weak had been killed off by the bandits long ago. Natural selection, bandit style. Follow this manual exactly, I told my officers. If something doesn't work, bring it to me. I'll revise it. But until I approve a change, you execute as written. No freelancing. Yes, my lord. And just like that, Eagle Beak Valley went from a bandit hideout to a boot camp. 60 recruits drilling in formation on the riverbank. Spears thrusting in unison. Arrows flying at straw targets. The sound of axes hitting practice logs echoing off the canyon walls. For weeks ago, this valley had slaves picking wheat under the threat of a whip. Now it has soldiers in training marching to flag signals. The Wind Dragon family is building its first army. It's tiny, it's ragged, and half of them were bandits last week. But it's mine. 2 months of pure grind. Every morning I was on the training field with my troops, spear in hand, hacking away at proficiency points like a man possessed. Here's what I figured out about the system. Weapon proficiency doesn't directly make me stronger, but it accumulates experience that unlocks combat arts, and combat arts physically upgrade the muscles and bones related to that technique. It's an indirect body enhancement pipeline. Stack enough combat arts together with the breathing technique, and I'm basically doing a full body renovation one skill at a time. I had 3 unlearned techniques sitting in my collection: piercing thrust, polearm, spinning spear, polearm, and heavy strike, two-handed. Time to eat them all. Month 1, polearm marathon. Trained basic spear technique every day. Half the time on foot, half on horseback, because polearms really shine in mounted combat. That warhorse I captured was magnificent. No saddle though. This world hasn't invented saddles. They just strap a leather pad on the horse's back and hope for the best. I sketched a saddle design from memory and gave it to Webart the blacksmith. He stared at it like I'd drawn a spaceship. Turns out saddles are mostly woodwork, and he's a metal worker. Also, my drawing was terrible. Work in progress. Picked up the 120 gold from Barutko at Cumeral Town, right on schedule. Good man keeps his word. Total gold now, absurd. Polearm proficiency hit 100, spear technique, beginner unlocked. 1 year of training experience downloaded. Body upgrade focused on spear-related muscles, bones, and tendons. Blood energy surged, which meant I could push the Wind Dragon breathing technique harder again. There's a beautiful feedback loop forming. Combat arts strengthen body. Stronger body produces more blood energy. More blood energy fuels the breathing technique. Breathing technique strengthens body further. Rinse, repeat, get scary. 2 more days. Proficiency hit 110. Piercing thrust, beginner. 2 years of training crammed into my skull. My horsemanship improved dramatically as a side effect. I could now lift 600 pounds overhead. That's mid-level apprentice knight standard, cleared. 10 more days. Proficiency hit 120. Spinning spear, beginner. 3 years of downloaded training. This was the mounted lance technique one I used. The technique that would have killed me if he'd caught me on flat ground. Now it's mine. My arms, waist, and riding ability all jumped again. Hunger hit me so hard after the upgrade, I ate enough for 3 people. Month 2, two-handed weapons. Switched to the greatsword and started grinding heavy strike. This was the technique Fondero used to kill Gerhard. Double-handed weapon proficiency at 100, two-handed sword technique. Beginner. The body upgrade was noticeably smaller this time. My constitution was getting high enough that basic combat art breakthroughs barely moved the needle anymore. Proficiency 110, heavy strike, beginner. Now I own the same technique that nearly killed me in Maple Valley. Satisfying. Current lifting strength, 700 pounds. High-level apprentice knight, needs 1,000. Getting there. At that point, blood energy becomes thick enough to attempt crystallizing a life seed with the breathing technique. That's the threshold of a real knight, supernatural territory. Still a ways off, but considering I started at, can't lift a heavy rock, 3 months ago, ridiculous progress. Let me count my combat arts: sword technique, whirlwind slash, spinning guard, spear technique, piercing thrust, spinning spear, two-handed sword technique, heavy strike, and bow technique. 9 beginner-level combat arts. 9 separate body enhancement downloads. In a world where most knights spend their entire career mastering maybe 2 or 3. Now I'm focusing all remaining training time on archery proficiency. Combat has proven again and again that my bow is my deadliest weapon. Everything else is backup. Meanwhile, my 60 recruits had transformed. 2 months of formation drilling, weapons training, and signal coordination turned starving slaves into something resembling actual soldiers. They stood straight, moved together, followed orders instantly. Not elite troops yet, but a world apart from the scared rabble I started with. Bandak came to me with his archery evaluations. My lord, only 2 candidates have the talent for bowmanship. Fair enough. Archery demands natural gifts, long arms, balanced physique, sharp eyes. You can't train someone into those. You 2 willing to join my forces? Both dropped to 1 knee. System confirmation: Doro Recruit Kandao, loyalty 72. Doro Recruit Black Wheat, loyalty 70. I'd figured out the system trigger by now. The loyalty check and enrollment prompt only fires when I perform the formal shoulder tap ceremony with my sword. Without the ritual, no system prompt. Medieval bureaucracy at its finest. Both accepted into the troop roster. Current status: 9 combat arts, 1 top-tier breathing technique, 700-pound strength, a hidden valley fortress, a mountain stronghold's worth of loot, a blacksmith, roughly 60 trainees, and a growing roster of upgraded troops. 3 months ago, I was choking to death in front of a computer screen playing Mount and Blade. Now I'm living it. And winning. 2 of Bandak's archer recruits qualified, Kandao and Black Wheat. Interesting detail. Black Wheat is actually Svadner, not Doro, but he enrolled as a Doro recruit anyway. My theory is that because Bandak trained them using Doro archery methods, the system slotted them into the Doro upgrade tree. The system doesn't care about your passport. It cares about your training lineage. Bandak asked to take his archers hunting in the surrounding hills. Smart. Real targets beat straw dummies every time. Plus it solves our meat shortage problem. I approved, with one rule: stay close. Green Forest Hills borders the Misty Forest, and I don't need my scouts stumbling into a magical beast territory. Then the system made my wallet cry. Ding. Svadner Militia Aryan can upgrade to Svadner Light Infantry. Cost: 5 gold, 5 gold. Second-tier upgrades cost 1 coin each. Third tier costs 5. I don't even want to know what 4th tier costs. But I paid it. No hesitation. An army is an investment, not an expense. Aryan was mid-training when the upgrade hit him. Muscles tore and rebuilt. Blood energy flooded his body. And then, the 3 combat arts he'd been studying but couldn't break through? Sword technique, spinning guard, and whirlwind slash all unlocked simultaneously. Years of training experience downloaded in seconds. He sprinted across the field and dropped to his knees in front of me, tears pouring down his face. He knew the power came from me. He didn't know how. He didn't ask. He just wept with gratitude. This was a man who'd been a slave, who'd given up on ever becoming a professional fighter. Now he had 3 combat arts and could lift over 500 pounds with one hand. Near mid-level apprentice knight strength. From a former slave. In 3 months. 1 day later, Bandak hit 3rd tier 2. Doro archer. 5 more gold coins gone. He unlocked sword technique, bow technique, and spinning guard. His strength wasn't as high as Aryan's. Only 300 pounds. But his upgrade went heavy on agility instead. His speed, hearing, eyesight, and sense of smell all skyrocketed. He came from a Doro Empire Knight family that got wiped out in a war. Sold into slavery, shipped across the continent, and he'd accepted he'd die as property. Now he was practically a professional scout sniper. Bandak's hunting team started bringing back deer, wild boar, and pheasants daily. The camp's diet went from bread and sadness to actual proper meals. Meat makes soldiers. Science fact. 10 days later, Eric and Nick both hit 3rd tier, Svatner Light Infantry and Deck Warrior respectively. 5 gold each. My wallet is developing PTSD. Eric unlocked 3 combat arts like Aryan, but with about 50 pounds less lifting power since he's younger. However, Eric has the Azure Falcon breathing technique from his family. Once that stacks with his troop upgrades, his growth ceiling might actually be higher than Aryan's. Nick went full berserker. His Deck Warrior path only gave him 2 combat arts, Axe Technique and Heavy Strike, but his raw strength nearly matched Aryan's. He fights with a 2-handed great axe. Subtle he is not. Effective? Absolutely. On the last day of the 3-month training period, Aaliyah finally hit 3rd tier, female guard. She'd been training so intensely and waiting so anxiously that I think the system was just torturing her at this point. But the wait paid off. 4 combat arts, sword technique, spinning guard, whirlwind slash, and bow technique. The most of anyone. Her strength was slightly below Aryan's, but her agility matched Bandak's. She became my strongest subordinate overnight. Deadly at close range with sword and shield, deadly at distance with her bow. Then came graduation day. 60 trainees, 3 months of drilling, and the final evaluation. Results: 8 passed basic sword, 4 passed basic spear, 3 passed basic axe, plus Bandak's 2 pre-selected archers. 17 qualified soldiers total out of 60 candidates, including Benekuk, who'd earned his spot honestly. None of them had unlocked actual combat arts yet. They just met my baseline competency standard. But 17 disciplined, trained soldiers is 17 more than I had 3 months ago. Current troop roster: 11 system-enrolled soldiers, 6 at 3rd tier with multiple combat arts, 1 blacksmith, and 17 newly qualified fighters ready for enrollment once I free up slots. 3 months of eating, sleeping, training, and spending gold like water. Was it worth it? I have a private army. You tell me. 17 soldiers passed the final exam. I lined them up, drew my sword, and gave each one the shoulder tap. You are now professional soldiers. Full-time fighters. No more farming for you. 1st tier benefits. Are you willing to serve? We are willing. 17 knees hit the dirt simultaneously. System notifications cascaded through my head like a slot machine. All above 60 loyalty. All eligible for enrollment. I enrolled 14, leaving 1 slot open for future special recruits. All classified as Svatner recruits. The moment they joined the system, every single one of them straightened up like someone had plugged them into a wall socket. They could feel something had changed, even if they couldn't explain it. The remaining 43 trainees became militia, farming during busy season, training during downtime. 2nd tier benefits. Then Aaliyah published the benefits chart. 1st tier, professional soldiers and key craftsmen 3 meals a day with white bread, meat when available, 1 silver coin monthly salary. 2nd tier, militia 3 meals a day, mixed bread, occasional meat, 10 copper coins monthly. 3rd tier, everyone else 2 meals of black bread. No salary. With a footnote, benefits increase as the Lord's wealth grows. In this world, even regular peasants pay crushing taxes and serve forced labor with 0 pay. I'm offering actual wages. That's revolutionary. These people would die for me just for the black bread. The silver coin is practically a love letter. Next stop, the blacksmith. Webbert had been busy. He'd dismantled the entire mountain camp forge, hauled it to Eagle Beak Valley, and rebuilt it from scratch. I'd given him all our spare iron ingots and broken weapons to melt down and reforge into arrows, a special design I call Wolf Fang arrows. I designed them myself using half-remembered knowledge from my previous life. Mulberry wood shafts from local trees. Arrowheads shaped like wolf fangs with jagged serrated edges. Fletching made from iron beak eagle tail feathers that Bandak hunted in the hills. My lord, I've made 180 so far. Only 30 have proper steel tips. The forge temperature isn't hot enough to smelt iron into steel consistently. The steel-tipped ones were made from reforging weapons that were already close to steel quality. 180 wolf fang arrows. 30 with steel heads. Not ideal, but we're working with a cave forge and captured materials. I swept them all into my inventory. Then I went to check on my other secret weapon, the bowyer. Aaliyah had found a guy named Soros, a civilian carpenter who'd made bows before getting captured by bandits. I'd given him every spare bow in camp plus purchase supplies: ox horn, tongue oil, hemp cord, and sinew glue. He'd been tearing apart existing bows and rebuilding them stronger, reinforcing the limbs with layered horn and wood, improving the recurve design for more power and flexibility. My lord, I've finished 4 recurve bows. This one was made specifically for you. He tried to string it for demonstration. Turned beet red. Couldn't bend the limbs far enough. The man physically could not string his own creation. I walked over, pressed down with one hand, and hooked the string on. Drew it back a few times. 300 pounds of draw weight. 300 paces of killing range. Shorter than my old composite bow, easier to carry. The arrows would hit like thunderbolts at distances where most archers can't even see their target. I was grinning like an idiot. Soros, you've done excellent work. He dropped to his knees. My lord, I want to serve you permanently. Like WebArt. Let me be your dedicated equipment maker. System ping. Apprentice Carpenter Soros, Loyalty 72. Requesting to join forces. A carpenter. Another crafting class with its own upgrade tree. Blacksmith and carpenter. That's the foundation of a self-sufficient military production line. Accepted immediately. Bumped to first-tier benefits. Gave the other 3 recurve bows to Aaliyah, Bandak, and kept one as backup. That evening after dinner, I made the announcement. Aaliyah, Eric, you're coming with me to Black Rock City tomorrow. Arian has command while we're gone. It's time. 3 months of building, training, forging. My army is shaped. My officers are blooded. My craftsmen are producing. Now I need to go spend 50 gold coins on a pioneer charter and make all of this legal. 3 riders heading to Black Rock City at dawn. Me on the war horse, Aaliyah and Eric on the draft horses. 3 objectives today. Upgrade my knight certification to mid-level, get Aaliyah and Eric certified as apprentice knights, and register all 3 of us as mercenaries so we can form an official squad. Why not certify Arian, Bandak, and Nick too? Because they have slave brands on their necks. No slave can register as a professional in this empire. Their original slave contracts are long lost, and without those documents, the system considers them escaped slaves. The only way to remove slave status is to have a noble lord vouch for you and pay 10 times the slave's market value as a release fee. With Arian's current combat power, his market price is probably over 100 gold. Times 10, 1,000 gold per person. 3 people? 3,000 gold. Not happening anytime soon. They're stuck as my sworn soldiers. Powerful, trusted, but legally still property. All 3 certifications went smoothly. I passed mid-level apprentice knight. Aaliyah and Eric both passed initial apprentice knight. And just as I predicted, my troop capacity jumped to 35. That's the real prize. Every rank upgrade means more soldiers I can bind to the system. Mid-level knight equals 35 slots. I'd been running at near capacity with my current force. Now I have room to grow. That's 40 gold coins in one morning. Aaliyah groaned, her face scrunched up like she'd bitten a lemon. 20 for my mid-level exam, 10 each for theirs. We need at least 1,000 gold to properly establish a pioneer territory. Slaves, supplies, equipment, soldiers. Relax. We can take real mercenary jobs now. The money will come faster. We registered as the Hurricane Mercenary Squad. Sounded cool. Aaliyah agreed enthusiastically. Eric would have agreed if I'd called us the Soggy Bread Squad, so his vote didn't count. Then a familiar voice boomed across the guild hall. Brother Huagu, Barutko, the Wild Bull Squad captain who'd bought my bandit bounty for 120 gold. We were practically business partners at this point. He had a job. A frontier lord named Harlings had purchased a batch of slaves and supplies from within the empire. The shipment was arriving at Black Rock City in 3 days and needed an armed escort of at least 30 mercenaries to transport everything 600 miles east into the wilderness. How much? 100 gold. Done. But I'm bringing 11 retainers along with my 3 registered mercs. Fine by me. Extra muscle is welcome. Just, only your 3 registered members get mercenary pay. Combat bonuses split by contribution. We registered the contract through the guild to keep everything official and protected. 3 days, East Gate, be there. While I was at the board, I grabbed 2 more jobs heading in the same direction. The wolf clearing mission for Baron Harlings still posted, which meant the wolves were still a problem. 50 gold just for showing up, with kill bonuses on top. And a scouting mission from the Maple Leaf Territory Baron 600 miles east, vague pay, negotiate on arrival. The undead clearing mission from Maple Leaf Territory had been taken down. Either someone completed it or everyone who tried died. Both equally likely out there. My thinking was simple, we're heading east anyway. Stack every mission along the route. If one's too dangerous, we abandon it. Mercenary rules allow that with no penalty. If we complete them, that's bonus gold. Plus, I'll be applying for a pioneer charter within the year. Scouting the Eastern Wasteland now saves time later. Last stop, the apothecary. Aaliyah, we're buying 2 bottles of healing potion. Young master, those are 10 gold each. Can't we just get more healing salve? Healing salve is like putting a bandage on a stab wound. It works, eventually, slowly. Healing potions are wizard-brewed miracle juice. Drink 1, and your wounds close in minutes. Everything short of organ destruction or instant death gets fixed. Out in the wasteland, our lives are worth more than gold coins. Let's go. She didn't argue further. We bought the potions. Current financial status. I've lost count of exactly how much I have. But between certifications, equipment, food, troop upgrades, and now potions, the spending has been relentless. But the earning potential just unlocked. Real mercenary contracts. Real frontier money. Hurricane Squad is open for business. First time visiting the Crow's Cottage, the wizard shop. The building looked like a haunted windmill with a jet-black raven statue on top. The raven's eyes glowed red, and I swear it was staring at me. Not in a friendly, welcome to our store way. More like a, I know what you did last Tuesday way. Aaliyah grabbed my sleeve. Young master, wait here. I'll go in. Be careful. Inside was dim and creepy. A woman in a full-length black robe and a tall pointed hat glided toward me. Her face was stunning, even prettier than Aaliyah's, but the witch outfit made it hard to appreciate the aesthetics. My survival instincts were screaming louder than my hormones. Welcome. Here for healing potions? Yes, esteemed wizard. Oh, please don't call me that. I'm just a low-level wizard attendant. Not even an apprentice. Not even an apprentice, and already so impressive. I truly admire you. Is there any chance I could become a wizard's attendant myself someday? Her name was Lillian, and she warmed up fast once I turned on the charm. Apparently, most mercenaries who come in are too terrified to make conversation. They just throw gold on the counter and sprint out. I was the first customer to actually flirt. I tried fishing for information about becoming a wizard apprentice. Her answer, if you have the potential, a wizard will find you. If you don't, stop looking. It's pointless, disappointing. I'd been secretly hoping my transmigration came with wizard potential as a bonus feature. Apparently not, or at least, not that anyone can detect yet. I checked the price list. Healing potions, 10 gold each. Life potions, for cultivation 800 gold. Antidotes, 100 gold. Dozens of bottles on the shelves worth tens of thousands of gold coins total. This tiny creepy shack had more wealth inside than most noble estates. Bought 2 healing potions. Tiny little bottles barely bigger than my thumb. 20 gold coins gone in 2 seconds. As I was leaving, Lillian called out. Heading to the eastern wastes, she handed me a sheepskin list of wizard materials they wanted to buy. Zombie fangs, 30 gold each. Death Realm mushrooms, 20 gold each. Fresh lungs from a level 1 wind wolf magical beast, 200 gold, must be kept fresh. Every item was bizarre and expensive. I memorized the list immediately. If I happen to trip over a zombie's corpse out there, I'm definitely pocketing the teeth. Back outside, Aaliyah practically melted with relief. Even as an apprentice knight, she was terrified of anything wizard-related. Fair enough. When the shop mascot stares into your soul, a healthy fear is appropriate. Go buy 2 carts and 2 draft horses, I told her. More spending. She whimpered. Can't be helped. In the wasteland, we need to ride, not walk. Arrive exhausted and you die. 30 gold for 2 draft horses and 2 covered carts. 5 more for supplies and a personal tent. Aaliyah's face looked like I was physically removing gold coins from her body. We raced back to Eagle Beak Valley and I gave the order. All professional soldiers, 1 day of rest, then we march. I used my expanded troop capacity to enroll everyone who'd passed the final exam. Full roster now, 24 system troops, 12 Svadner recruits, 2 Svadner light infantry, Aryan, Erek, 1 Doro archer, Bandak, 2 Doro recruits, 1 deck warrior, Nick, 3 deck recruits, 1 female guard, Elia, 1 apprentice blacksmith, Webart, 1 apprentice carpenter, Soros. Speaking of Soros, the man delivered a surprise package before departure. A full set of handcrafted leather armor accessories, shoulder guards, leg guards, wrist guards, and a reinforced leather helmet. 3-layered hide with iron wire sandwiched between the layers. Arrows wouldn't punch through this. I made sets for the other soldiers too, he added. Not as nice as yours, but they'll stop stray arrows. Start working with Webart on iron armor. That's the next priority. Yes, my lord. My officers and squad leaders got full protective gear. Regular soldiers got basic leather armor and whatever extras Soros had time to make. Everyone had proper weapons, swords and shields for the Svadner troops, axes for the deck troops, bows and swords for the Doro troops. Each archer carried 2 quivers of 60 arrows. Bandak got a quiver of Wolf-Fang arrows. We look like an actual military unit now. Small, but properly equipped and trained. 3 months ago, these people were starving slaves. Today, they're marching to the frontier as professional soldiers with combat arts, signal flags, and matching gear. Tomorrow, East Gate of Black Rock City. Join Barutko's escort mission. Then deeper into the wilderness than any of us have ever been. The Hurricane Squad rides out. What about Eagle Beak Valley while we're gone? Elia asked, raising the one question I'd been trying not to think about. I put Soros in charge, highest authority, final say on all decisions. Webart as second, plus a militia captain the squad leaders recommended. 3-person leadership committee. Orders: do not leave the valley under any circumstances. When I announced Soros's promotion, his loyalty jumped 10 points. Webert's went up 6. Turns out giving men authority is the fastest loyalty hack in any world. Some things are truly universal. We reached the east gate of Black Rock City on schedule. The convoy was already assembled, 20 carts stretching out like a sad medieval train. 15 carts packed with slaves, all roped together. 5 carts loaded with supplies. A long, expensive parade of human misery and dry goods heading into the wilderness. Barutko had rounded up 27 mercenaries total, all mounted. Most on draft horses, a few senior guys on war horses similar to mine. But the real muscle was the client's own escort, 20 cavalry soldiers from Baron Harlings's territory. Their gear was on another level entirely. The leader wore full plate armor, polished steel from head to toe, covered helmet, reinforced joints. A walking tank. He had to be at least a high-level apprentice knight to even move in that much metal. The convoy flag showed a fire lion emblem. House Harlings was apparently a branch of one of the Empire's 5 founding duke families. Big money, big connections. Well, go. You take point, Barutko said casually. Your carts are slow anyway. Stay about a kilometer ahead of the main convoy and scout the road. Translation: you get to be the first thing that walks into any ambush. He wasn't wrong about the logic. My carts were the slowest element. And having a forward scout element is basic tactics. But let's be honest, he put the youngest, lowest-ranked team in the most dangerous position. Fine, no point arguing. I'd rather be in front knowing what's coming than in the back finding out too late. I sent Bandak a kilometer ahead of even MY position as a forward scout. That man was born for this. His Doro Hunter upgrade made him practically invisible in the wilderness. I gave him signal arrows for emergencies. 3 days of uneventful travel. We fell into a rhythm. March by day, camp by night. Barutko assigned me the forward camp position, closest to potential danger, 100 meters ahead of the client's perimeter. His team and the other mercs covered the sides and rear. The client's cavalry set up in the center, protecting the cargo. I had 0 camp building experience, so I let Bandak design our defensive layout. He and Nick had been transported across the continent as slaves. They'd seen enough military camps to know what works. Ring of wooden barricades, pit traps around the perimeter, 2 exits only, and a raised boulder in the center where an archer could perch for night watch duty. I rode around inspecting the other camps for comparison. Most mercenary camps were sloppy. Barutko's Wild Bull setup was decent. But the Harlings cavalry camp was impressive. Clean sight lines, layered defenses, professional rotation schedule. Good reference material for future campaigns. Evenings were the best part. Bandak killed 6 pheasants during his scouting runs, and Aaliyah turned them into a massive pot of chicken soup. Every soldier got a full bowl with black bread, jerky, and pickled vegetables. The chicken meat went to me first, obviously. Being the Lord has exactly one perk that makes all the near-death experiences worthwhile. First dibs on the chicken. On the 3rd evening, Baruchko rode up to our forward camp and pointed at a massive mountain range blocking the horizon like a wall of stone teeth. Past the Caroler Mountains and Fort Mitch, we enter the wasteland. After that, we follow the edge of the misty forest. It gets dangerous. Keep your eyes sharp up front, the wilderness, where the Empire's protection ends and everything wants to eat you. My forward position just went from slightly more dangerous to walking buffet advertisement. Good thing I brought that chicken soup. The Caroler Mountains rose like a wall of teeth separating civilization from everything that wants to eat you. And right at the only passable gap sat Fort Mitch, a stone fortress perched on a hill where the misty forest squeezes through a 10-kilometer valley into the wasteland beyond. This was the last outpost of the Empire. Beyond here, no patrols, no laws, no rescue. Fort Mitch was also the last shopping opportunity. Taverns, blacksmiths, general stores, leather shops, grain merchants, even a slave dealer. Everything a frontier-bound lord might need. All marked up to, you have no other options, prices. Told to pass through, 1 silver coin per person. Unless you're nobility, in which case it's free. I flashed my Wind Dragon badge and walked right through. The other mercenaries grumbled and paid up. Being a broke aristocrat has its perks. The fortress was garrisoned by a squadron of Wind Eagle cavalry under a real knight, safe enough that the entire convoy could relax for the first time in days. We camped in a large plaza designated for passing mercenary companies and frontier lords. My lord, there's a wanted board, Aaliyah pointed out. I checked it. Top of the list, 5 leaders of the Vulture Bandit Gang, 50 gold each minimum. Below that, a collection of smaller bounties on bandits and evil knights. Yes, apparently night criminals are their own category, ranging from a few gold to several dozen. Mental note, if I happen to bump into any of these people, their heads are worth cash. That evening, most of the mercenaries bolted for the tavern the moment their guard shift ended. My troops stayed put. We don't drink on duty. Also, we can't afford tavern prices. I was doing my evening breathing technique practice when Aaliyah announced a visitor, Gord Harrow, the Harling's cavalry commander. The plate-armored human tank himself. Out of his armor, he looked completely different. Maybe 20 years old, flowing gold hair, wearing an elegant padded jacket with a knight's sword at his hip. He went from terrifying war machine to handsome young nobleman in one wardrobe change. Aaliyah served pine nut tea. She prepared it specifically for entertaining noble guests. A fallen duke family still needs proper etiquette, she insisted. I thought it was unnecessary. She thought I was wrong. She was probably right. Gord got straight to business. He'd noticed my troops, the discipline, the formations, the instant obedience to commands. We stood out from every other mercenary group like a diamond in a pile of gravel. Your Winddragon family? Planning to pioneer? That's right. Trying to earn enough gold for the charter. Then he gave me the information I desperately needed, and it was worse than I expected. The pioneer charter system is rigged. The Fire Dragon Imperial family, the Royals, now control all land assignments through their appointed administrators. Other noble families have zero say. Gord's own lord was a second son of House Firelion, one of the 5 founding duke families, and even he got screwed. They assigned his territory 500 miles from the mountain pass, deep in dangerous territory, when perfectly good unclaimed land existed within 300 miles. They're deliberately weakening the other founding families, Gord said flatly. The distance tiers, as he explained them, under 300 miles from the mountains is good. 300 to 600 miles is hard. Beyond 600 miles is a death sentence. And what's out there? Endless waves of goblins, magical beasts, undead, trolls, ogres, lizardmen. A buffet of things designed to kill frontier settlers. Their specific nightmare was a level 1 wind wolf magical beast near the misty forest. Just one magical beast, but it commanded hundreds of regular predators. No one without a real knight could hunt it down. The thing appeared and disappeared like a ghost. They'd already lost over 1,000 slaves to its raids. Multiple mercenary teams had tried to help, including a full mercenary company. All failed. The family is sending a real knight next month to deal with it, Gord said. In the meantime, we're buying slaves and building defensive fortifications as fast as we can. We talked for hours. He shared everything: terrain, threats, supply logistics, political dynamics. Invaluable intelligence for someone about to do exactly what his lord was doing, except with a fraction of the resources. Two things I took away from this conversation. First, the Eastern Wasteland is manageable if you're smart and stay close to the mountains. Second, the imperial family is actively sabotaging other noble houses through the charter system. Which means when I apply for MY charter, the Fire Dragon family will almost certainly assign me the worst possible location they can find. Because I'm not just any noble. I'm the last heir of the Wind Dragon family, their former equal among the 5 founding houses. They'll want me to fail. They'll design my assignment to kill me. Good thing I have a cheat system. Let's see them plan around that. That Gord Knight seems to have ulterior motives, Aaliyah whispered after he left. Either he genuinely respects us, or he wants something. Either way, useful information is useful information. Next morning, back on point duty. The road carved between impossibly tall mountains on the north and the misty forest on the south. These mountains made the Himalayas look like speed bumps. I couldn't even see the tops. The forest was a wall of massive trees wrapped in fog, with occasional roars echoing from deep inside that made everyone's neck hair stand up. The mercenaries who'd spent last night partying with tavern girls were half asleep on their horses, yawning like they were at a lecture. Real professional. Then we exited the mountain pass into the eastern wasteland, and Bandak's signal arrow screamed into the sky. Formation, I shouted. My troops reacted like a machine. Everyone off the carts in seconds. We found a half-circle cliff indentation with 2 5-meter stone platforms. Perfect archer perches. Carts dragged across the front as barricades. Svadiner troops with shields plugging the gaps. Deck warriors up on the cart tops for high-ground axe swinging. Bandak, Aaliyah, and the Doro recruits scrambled up the stone platforms with bows ready. Horses pulled under the cliff overhang for protection. 3 months of drilling. Paying off right now. I sent Benekuk to warn the main convoy. Baruko's reaction? His buddy laughed. First time in the wasteland, huh? Scared of goblins? Those stupid little things are everywhere out here. I once killed 80 in a single charge. Tell your captain to stop being such a coward. Benekuk came back fuming. They think we're overreacting. Then the forest vomited out what looked like the entire goblin nation. Dark green skin, red eyes, pointed ears, ugly faces, about 4.5 feet tall, carrying crude swords, clubs, spears, wearing animal skins or literal tree bark. Thousands of them. Thousands. Pouring out of the tree line like a dam broke. This wasn't 100 goblin raiding party. This was an army. Hold formation. Archers, conserve arrows. Target the biggest ones only. I jumped off my warhorse, grabbed my broadsword and shield, and took the front position. Because when thousands of monsters are charging your 20-something soldiers, the boss doesn't get to stand in the back. My sword became a blender. 3 goblins dead in the first second. Blood and body parts spraying in every direction. Arian, Erek, and Nick formed the front line with me, hacking and smashing like men possessed. Behind us, Bandak and Aaliyah were picking off the largest goblins from the stone platforms. 1 arrow, 1 kill. Methodical. Clinical. 500 meters back, Baruko was suddenly not laughing anymore. His scattered mercenaries, spread out, disorganized, half of them still drowsy, got swarmed before they could form any kind of defense. No preparation time. No formation. Just individual fighters surrounded by green tidal waves. Gord reacted fastest. He ordered his cavalry to cut the slave ropes, flip the front carts around, and form a wagon circle on the narrow mountain road. Horses in the center. Dismounted cavalry with swords forming a defensive ring. Then he screamed at the slaves. You want to live? Pick up rocks. Break off cart shafts. Fight. Anyone who survives gets extra bread and meat soup for the rest of the trip. Not the most inspiring speech in military history, but effective under the circumstances. 30 minutes of nonstop killing. The goblin corpses in front of our position were stacked 2 meters high in a semicircle. We literally built a wall of dead bodies. And still they climbed over their own fallen, shrieking and stabbing. "My lord, something's wrong," Nick gasped between axe swings. "Goblins are supposed to be cowards. Why won't they stop?" "Good question. Goblins flee when they take losses. That's their defining trait. These ones were charging into certain death without hesitation. Something was driving them. Something behind the scenes. "Hold the line," was all I could shout back. My first-tier recruits were spent. Arms like jelly, couldn't lift their weapons anymore. The archers' fingers were bleeding, barely able to draw their bows. Half an hour of maximum intensity combat had drained everyone to empty. Even Arian and the other third-tier troops were running on fumes. I'd burned through about 70% of my own stamina. We were holding, but barely, and the goblins kept coming. While my squad was holding, Barutko's mercenaries were getting slaughtered. Those idiots who laughed about goblins being harmless? Dead. The goblins swarmed their horses first, hacked the legs out from under them with clubs and swords, then piled onto the fallen riders like ants on sugar. Only Barutko and a few mid-to-high-tier knights managed to abandon their horses, cut through the mob, and scramble up to rock ledges on the cliff face. Everyone else, gone. Gord's wagon circle was holding, though. The man was ruthless. He personally executed slaves who tried to flee the battle line. Harsh. Absolutely. Effective? The remaining 800 male slaves watched their companions get beheaded for cowardice and suddenly found the courage to fight goblins with rocks and broken cart shafts. The formation stabilized. Meanwhile, I checked my system, level 5. 2 whole levels from this massacre. Archery proficiency jumped to 185 from all the killing. And every single one of my first-tier troops could upgrade. No hesitation. 12 Svadiner recruits to Svadiner militia. 3 Deck recruits to Deck warriors. 2 Doro recruits to Doro hunters. The cost barely registered. Survival isn't the time for budgeting. The effect was instantaneous. 17 exhausted soldiers who could barely lift their weapons suddenly surged back to life. Strength doubled, stamina refilled, combat skills crystallizing in their minds. They could feel the power coming from me. Loyalty spiked 10 points across the board. They roared and slammed back into the goblin horde with renewed fury. Even Webart and Soros back in Eagle Beak Valley got upgraded. Apprentice to journeyman class. Cost 2 gold each instead of 1. Higher price means higher value. And they gained experience from the battle without even being present. The system shares experience across the entire troop roster regardless of location. 3 years of crafting expertise downloaded into their brains in seconds. Then the forest shook. 3 monsters stepped out of the tree line. 3 meters tall, gray-green skin like old bark, short bristly hair like steel needles, massive tusks, each one carrying a black iron club the size of a person, crude, unrefined, like someone had chiseled a boulder into a weapon shape. Forest trolls, Bandak screamed. He knew them from the Doro Empire. Adults have the strength of high-level apprentice knights, skin tough as light steel armor. And they always travel with goblin armies, because goblins are essentially troll servants. That's why the goblins wouldn't retreat. They weren't fighting for themselves. They were fighting for their masters. One troll headed straight for me. I burned an attribute point. Constitution refilled instantly. Full stamina, full strength, injuries fading. Then I grabbed my composite bow and my best Wolfang arrow. First shot, aimed at its eye. The troll saw it coming and blocked with its iron club. Smart monster. Second shot, heart. The arrow punched through the skin barely a millimeter and fell to the ground. What? My lord, adult forest troll skin is like steel plate armor. Regular arrows can't penetrate. Bandak shouted helpfully from behind. Thanks, Bandak. Could have mentioned that before I wasted 2 premium arrows. Okay, new strategy. If I can't punch through fresh skin, I'll punch through the same spot twice. Create a wound, then exploit it. My second arrow had broken the surface slightly at the heart area. Third arrow at the same spot, missed by 2 finger widths. The troll was running, its massive body swaying. Even my accuracy wasn't perfect enough at this range against a moving, bouncing target. Time for an emergency investment. I dumped 15 weapon points into archery, pushing it from 185 to 200. Bow technique, proficient. 2 years of intensive training memories flooded my brain. My arms, back, and eyes all upgraded simultaneously. The world sharpened. My sense of arrow trajectory, wind compensation, target prediction, everything jumped a full tier. The troll was 80 paces away now, closing fast. That iron club would turn my soldiers into paste. I drew a wolf fang arrow, held my breath, locked onto the tiny wound on the troll's chest, a spot barely the size of a coin. Released. The wolf fang arrow punched straight into the wound I'd already opened. The troll screamed. Bow technique, proficient. That upgrade wasn't just a stat boost. At this range, I could now thread a needle on a moving target. Wind speed, arrow arc, muscle control, all operating at a level that felt almost supernatural. The troll ripped the arrow out, tearing off a chunk of its own flesh. Still alive, the skin and muscle layers were so thick that even hitting the same spot twice hadn't reached the heart. Fine. Third time's the charm. It was charging me, 30 paces and closing. I fired again. Same wound. Same exact spot. The troll's whole body shuddered. It grabbed its chest, roared once more, and collapsed like a felled tree. The ground literally shook. The moment it died, every goblin in our area did exactly what Barutko said they'd do. Scattered like cockroaches when you turn on the lights. Turns out goblins are cowards. They just needed their master to die first. I leveled up again from that one troll kill. Level 6 now. Plus 6 more archery proficiency points. High-value targets are worth the risk. I grabbed the troll's iron club, 500 pounds of some kind of ultra-dense natural metal, maybe meteorite iron. If Webart could forge this into weapons, they'd be extraordinary. Stored the horses in my inventory, left the carts behind, and pushed forward with the squad in combat formation. 3 months of drilling made these soldiers move like a single organism. Svadner shields in front, deck axes behind, archers in the rear, me in the center with my bow. We rounded the bend, and I saw the disaster. Gord's wagon circle was broken. One troll had smashed through. Goblins were butchering male slaves and carrying off screaming women. Gord himself was dodging around the second troll, his knight's sword scratching the monster's hide, but unable to cut deep enough to matter. He was losing a war of attrition against something that barely felt his attacks. The third troll had cornered Barutko and 2 surviving wild bull mercs on a cliff ledge. That giant iron club was smashing chunks off the rock face with every swing. One good hit, and they were paced. Every other mercenary was dead or gone. I didn't hesitate. Drew my bow, found the troll chasing Gord. It was focused entirely on the knight, back partially turned to me. One arrow, right through its eye. It crashed to the ground mid-swing. Incredible shot. Gord screamed with pure relief. He immediately rallied his surviving cavalry to counterattack the goblins and recover the captured women. Last troll, the smart one. It saw me kill its buddy and charged straight at me, holding its meteorite club in front of its face to block eye shots. Behind it, panicking goblins rallied at its roar and surged toward my position. Form up, Aryan and the squad locked into a defensive ring around my boulder perch. Goblins slammed into the shield wall and died by the dozen. Huiji, save me. Barutko was screaming from his ledge. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. The charging troll wasn't stupid enough to expose its eyes, but it was stupid enough to charge in a straight line. I put 3 arrows into the exact same spot on its chest. Boom, boom, boom. Punching through skin, then muscle, then heart. It face-planted 30 paces from my position. The ground shook again. 3 trolls dead, all by my bow. The remaining goblins lost their collective minds and fled into the forest like their lives depended on it, which they did. My lord, Bandak said quietly. 3 trolls together with this many goblins means there's a massive nest nearby. I looked at the fleeing green horde disappearing into the misty forest. Chased them. We pursued for dozens of miles into the forest, killing stragglers the whole way and collecting their discarded weapons. Every dead goblin was experience points. Every mile deeper was intelligence about the terrain. Somewhere in this forest, there was a troll nest full of goblins and probably more meteorite iron, and I intended to find it. But that's a problem for tomorrow. Today's scorecard: 3 trolls dead, 1 army of goblins routed, 2 mercenary groups saved, an entire convoy rescued, and enough combat experience to upgrade my entire roster. Not bad for a Tuesday. Nick upgraded mid-chase. Deck infantry, 3rd tier, 5 gold coins. His strength hit 500 pounds, and he unlocked a throwing axe skill. 50 pace range, hits harder than arrows. Not subtle, but very Nick. We chased the fleeing goblins deep into the misty forest. Bandak and the Doro hunters tracked them like bloodhounds. Footprints, broken branches, goblin droppings. Apparently, they leave a lot of those. Miles of pursuit until we found it. A massive cave entrance hidden under a giant tree canopy, with a well-worn path leading to the opening. Charge. Don't let them destroy anything inside. Arian went first with his shield up. Svadiner troops behind him, deck warriors next, archers last. The cave guards were few. Most of the goblin army was already dead on the road. We cut through them fast. Then we entered the main chamber, and I almost vomited. A football field-sized cavern. Hundreds of human women chained by their legs to the cave floor. Some pregnant. Some nursing tiny goblins at their breasts. Most naked, skeletal, eyes completely hollow. Some women had 4 or 5 little goblins crawling around them. Goblins don't have females. They reproduce by kidnapping human women. A few goblins were actively killing the women, scorched earth before we arrived. My lord, this is how goblins breed, Bandak said, his voice shaking with fury. They steal human women. Each birth produces multiple offspring. This species shouldn't exist. Looking at the women, some clearly wouldn't survive another pregnancy. They were being bred to death. Kill every goblin. Every single one. My soldiers didn't need to be told twice. Every goblin in that cave died in minutes. We searched the entire cavern. The goblins' food supply was roots, bark, insects, and small animal carcasses. In a side chamber, we found 50 gold coins, 102 silver, and 208 copper. The goblins had been raiding human settlements for a while. Then Bandak found the real treasure. My lord, iron stone. In a corner of the deepest chamber sat a massive boulder of the same material as the trolls' clubs. Meteorite iron. For chunks where pieces had been broken off, matching exactly the 3 clubs I'd already collected. Each remaining piece weighed about 1,000 pounds. I touched one. My spatial inventory accepted it. All 4 pieces fit in a single slot labeled meteorite iron. For 1,000 pounds of ultra-dense meteoric metal that could be forged into weapons harder and stronger than anything a normal blacksmith could produce. If Webart could figure out how to work this material, my troops would be carrying blades that cut through steel like butter. What about the women? Arian asked. 300+ captives, most in terrible condition. I couldn't feed or shelter this many people. We'll hand them to Gord. He lost a lot of slaves today. He can use the workers. Then I turned to Aaliyah, screened them on the way back. Anyone with basic combat training could join our forces. Female guard is a strong upgrade path. You proved that. It took until nightfall to get everyone out of the forest. Most of the women walked like zombies, completely numb. The recently captured ones cycled through sobbing, laughing with relief, and sobbing again. Nobody resisted. After what they'd been through, following armed soldiers who weren't going to breed them with monsters was an upgrade. This world's treatment of its lowest people makes my stomach turn. But I can't save everyone. I can only build something better within what I control. We emerged from the forest to find the convoy survivors camped near the cliff face. Gord met me immediately. Wagoo. Without your archery today, we'd all be dead. You're the client. That's what you're paying for. Barutko limped over, covered in wounds, looking like a man who'd just learned humility the hard way. I should have listened to your warning. I'm sorry. Of his 27 mercenaries, 22 were dead. 5 survivors, all injured. One night of drinking and sleeping with tavern girls had cost them their edge when it mattered most. The goblin attack wasn't even that sophisticated. It was the trolls plus sheer numbers. If they'd been rested and in formation, most of them would still be alive. But that's mercenary life. They all knew the risks when they signed up. The 5 survivors didn't seem particularly grief-stricken, just tired. We made camp at our earlier defensive position, the cliff indentation with the stone platforms. Arian organized everything while Aaliyah stood guard beside me. The rescued women waited on the road nearby. Today's haul: 3 troll kills, a meteor iron arsenal, 50 gold from the goblin horde, hundreds of goblin kills worth of experience, 1 troop-wide upgrade wave, and enough meteorite iron to arm an elite squad. Today's cost: 0 casualties on my side. 3 months of training. Worth every second. Gord, I pulled about 300 women out of a goblin breeding cave. Want them? Not exactly how I imagined my first business negotiation going. But here we are. Gord lost a couple hundred slaves in the battle, so he needed replacements. He'd buy the rescued women at market price, though the pregnant ones were worth less. I had one condition: don't kill the pregnant women. Don't worry, Gord said. Goblin gestation is only 3 months. We'll dispose of the offspring after birth, let the women recover, then assign them as wives to our male slaves. They won't complain. Dark? Yes. But in this world, that counts as a happy ending. Elias screened the women during the handover and found 16 civilians among them, including 6 former adventurers who'd learned basic sword and archery skills before getting captured during misty forest expeditions. I gave every civilian a choice: join my forces voluntarily or leave with a day's food rations back to Fort Mitch. 6 women chose to stay, for we're the ex-adventurers. Good recruits with combat foundations, potential female guard upgrade candidates like Aaliyah. The remaining rescued women sold to Gord's steward for 20 gold coins. Not much per head, but it was money I didn't have this morning. Then Gord brought up the troll carcasses. Those are your war trophies. Your call. But I'd like to buy one. I had a better idea. From the original memories, I knew troll hide makes incredible armor. Tough as light iron plate, but weighing half as much. The catch is that it needs expert tanning, and if you don't process it quickly, it rots and loses quality. Keep one for free, I told Gord. But have your leather worker tan the other 2 into armor sets for my troops. Deal. Should be ready by the time we reach your territory. 2 full sets of troll hide armor for my officers. For free. Plus I still had 3 meteorite iron clubs in my inventory weighing about 1,500 pounds total and 4,000 pounds of raw meteorite, or from the Goblin Cave. Webart was going to lose his mind when he saw all this. That night, I quietly pulled the horses out of my inventory to feed them. My troops didn't blink. At this point, watching me make horses appear and disappear was less exciting than dinner. Next morning, we hit the road again. The women who wanted to leave got food and directions back to Fort Mitch. The 6 recruits joined Aaliyah's command. I'd observed them before committing system slots. Loyalty and talent first, enrollment later. Baruchko was a changed man. He'd lost 22 of his 27 mercenaries in one afternoon. The 5 survivors merged their camp with Gord's convoy. And suddenly, the guy who'd mocked my cowardice about goblins couldn't stop asking for my opinion on everything. He'd also been watching my troops closely and couldn't figure out what he was seeing. 0 casualties in a battle that killed 22 veteran mercenaries. Perfect formation discipline during absolute chaos. Soldiers who marched in combat-ready formation even during casual travel. Your people are better than most regular armies, he muttered once, half to himself. 3 months of boot camp, my friend. Standing in formation. Marching in step. Following flag signals. Everyone laughs at drill until the goblins come. That afternoon we passed through a mountain gap and finally left the misty forest behind. The landscape split dramatically. Northeast was open wasteland with sparse scrub and gravel, flat terrain, good visibility, easy marching. Southeast was dense forest separated from the wasteland by a major river flowing down from the Caroler Mountains. Gord's engineers threw up a crude wooden bridge across the river, and the convoy crossed into the open wasteland. His cavalry came alive on the flat ground, horses galloping freely, scouts ranging far ahead. The whole column moving twice as fast as before. The wasteland had plenty of game. Antelope, spotted deer, elk, all fast, but not faster than my arrows. Bandak and I hunted daily, keeping the entire convoy supplied with fresh venison and mutton. The surplus went to Gord's people. Even some of his slaves got meat soup on good days. I kept training during the march, practicing spear techniques on horseback, grinding polearm proficiency while we traveled. Every idle minute was a wasted opportunity to get stronger. Occasional goblin scouting parties scattered the moment they saw the cavalry. Out here in the open, without trolls backing them up, goblins were exactly what Baruchko had originally described. Cowardly, weak little creatures that ran from anything bigger than them. The difference between 100 goblins and 3,000 goblins with troll commanders is the difference between a nuisance and a catastrophe. Baruchko learned that lesson. He just paid 22 lives for the education. The 6 rescued women settled in nicely. Aaliyah screened them. Arian and the others shared their stories of going from slaves to squad leaders, and within days the women's loyalty crossed 60. I enrolled all 6 and created a personal guard unit under Aaliyah's command. 4 of them hadn't actually been violated by the goblins. They'd only been captured 2 days before we arrived. Turns out, goblins don't use force to break women. They use starvation. Just stop feeding them until desperation overrides dignity. The 4 who resisted were planning to bite off their own tongues rather than submit. I really hate goblins. For peaceful days into the wasteland, and I was starting to relax. Morning mist, gentle march, birds singing, bandak's signal arrows shrieked into the sky. Through the fog, massive silhouettes. 18 of them, arranged in 3 rows of 6. Ogres. Gord galloped up, face grim. They throw javelins and boulders. We must close to melee range. Cavalry. Spread formation. Charge. Gord's 20 riders fanned out with wide spacing and thundered forward, Gord himself swinging wide to flank. I screamed at my troops. OFF the carts. Tip them for cover. Shields up, my soldiers moved like clockwork. Carts flipped on their sides as barricades. Shield bearers crouched behind with shields overhead. 3 months of drill. This was exactly the scenario we'd trained for. Good thing, too. The ogres opened fire. Wooden javelins the size of fence posts came screaming in like cruise missiles. These things stood 12 to 14 feet tall, muscles like knotted tree trunks, veins thick as snakes. Each one carried a bundle of javelins on its back and a massive spiked club. They threw in rotating volleys. Front row launches, steps back, second row steps up, launches, rotates. Coordinated. Disciplined. Way smarter than trolls. 3 of Gord's cavalry got skewered instantly, punched right off their horses. My squad stayed safe behind the overturned carts and shields. No casualties. I wheeled my warhorse to the flank, staying out of the ogre's forward arc. At under 100 paces, riding sideways, I started shooting. First arrow, straight into a giant ear. Down it went. 3 more arrows. 3 more dead ogres. Mounted archery is brutally difficult. The horse is bouncing. You're holding the reins with your knees. The wind is shifting, and the target is 14 feet of angry muscle throwing telephone poles at you. But bow technique. Proficient makes the impossible merely hard. Gord reached the ogre line and demonstrated why he was the commander. His lance technique activated on the charge. 1 thrust, powered by a galloping warhorse, punched straight through an ogre's club guard and into its heart. The monster flipped backward like it weighed nothing. He was smart about it, too. Angled his charge to pass along the edge of their formation, not through it. 1 kill, keep moving, circle back. His regular cavalry weren't as skilled. 2 more got clubbed off their horses in close combat. But they took down 1 ogre in a coordinated 2-on-1. I kept shooting. 8 ogres down. 11. The remaining 7 realized I was the real threat, and 3 of them broke formation to charge me with javelins. I kicked my horse into a gallop. A javelin came screaming at my chest, spinning guard activated, arm shield deflecting the projectile with a bone-jarring clang. Kept riding. Kept shooting. 3 pursuing ogres. 3 arrows. 3 dead ogres. Gord swung back for his second cavalry charge. The ogre formation was shattered now. The survivors tried to run, but ogres are slow and warhorses are not. Gord's cavalry ran them down 1 by 1. Final score. Huagu, 13 kills. Gord's cavalry, 5 kills. Gord's losses, 7 riders. Having a master archer in the convoy is the best thing that's happened to this expedition, Gord shouted, genuinely delighted despite losing 1/3 of his remaining cavalry. The ogre hides could be tanned into decent leather armor. Not as good as troll hide, but still valuable. My troops claimed the 13 I killed as were trophies. Aryan's squad stripped the bodies and collected everything useful. The wasteland doesn't care how strong you think you are. Goblins, trolls, ogres, and we're only 4 days in. The deeper you go, the worse it gets. But my archery proficiency keeps climbing. My troops keep leveling. And every battle teaches us something new about fighting in this hellscape. 13 ogres in 1 engagement. No friendly casualties. Again, Baruchko watched the whole thing from behind the cart barricade. He didn't say a word afterward. Just stared at me with this look that said, "What are you?" Good question, Baruchko. I'm a guy who died playing Mount and Blade and woke up living it. And I'm getting better at it every day. Gord, I'll trade you 2 ogre hides for all 18 hearts. Oh, and have your leather guy process my remaining skins too. Aaliyah will handle the pricing. Gord agreed without blinking. Each ogre heart was worth 3 gold to the crow's cottage, and my inventory keeps everything fresh indefinitely. Most mercenaries can't sell these because hearts rot in 2 days in this heat. Me? I just pop them into my magical invisible refrigerator. Easy money. Nick and the deck warriors handled the heart extraction. I casually stored them in my inventory while pretending to pack them in the supply cart. Nobody noticed. At this point, my troops have seen me make entire horses vanish. They know not to ask questions, and they definitely don't talk about it to outsiders. Check my status panel. Level 7 now. 2 more levels just from this trip. Archery at 226, deep into the proficient tier. 3 unspent attribute points and 45 weapon points banked for emergencies. The troop upgrade notifications hit like a slot machine jackpot. 3 Svadner militia ready for light infantry. 1 deck warrior ready for deck infantry. 1 Doro hunter ready for Doro archer. And all 6 newly recruited women ready for huntress. Upgrade cost: 56 gold coins. Gone in an instant. Watching 56 gold evaporate physically hurt, but the results were worth it. Every upgraded soldier got the blood energy infusion, stamina restored, strength doubled, combat arts unlocking. My 3rd tier troop count jumped to 10. I did notice something though. The new 3rd tier soldiers got fewer combat arts than my originals. The 3 new Svadner light infantry only unlocked sword technique and spinning guard, missing whirlwind slash that Arian and Erek had gotten. The new deck infantry got axe and throwing axe, but not heavy strike. The new Doro archer only got bow technique, nothing else. My conclusion: the system upgrade gives a body enhancement and a talent boost, but the actual combat arts depend on the individual's natural ability and how hard they've trained. Arian practiced obsessively. These newer soldiers hadn't put in the same hours. The system rewards effort, not just loyalty. 3rd tier seems to be the critical threshold though. That's where soldiers become roughly equivalent to mid-level apprentice knights. A meaningful jump from trained fighter to genuine professional. The blacksmith and carpenter? Still stuck at their current tier. And none of my originals, Arian, Bandak, Aaliyah, the veterans, had hit 4th tier yet. I was dying to see what that looked like. 2 days later, Gord exhaled for the first time in a week. There's a settlement ahead. We can rest tonight. River Bend territory. 200 miles from Fort Mitch. A proper frontier settlement. Blackstone Castle on a hilltop, 5 villages spread around it. Farmland along a wide river. Watchtowers every 100 paces along the perimeter walls, and a logging camp across the river at the edge of the misty forest. An actual functioning pioneer barony.